Not so bad. I feel good today because yesterday I was tired. Today.
Yeah.
I feel like 90% charged.
Well, I was in bed late last night and then I was awake early this morning. I went to see the fireworks in
Ramelton?
Yeah, but I have a problem.
What's your problem?
Well, I was in a rush because obviously getting Hudson sleep and then it's quite a distance to go, right?
Yeah.
So parked the car, ran down to the front gate, $5 in.
Yeah, good.
Checked my pockets.
No money.
No wallet.
Cat. All right. So what did you do?
I says, well, I'm meeting someone.
Do you know who I am?
No, I said, so I'm meeting someone in there, right?
And they'll give me the $5.
So I'll give you the money on the way back out.
Good on you.
Right? So went in.
Yeah.
On the way back out.
You forgot.
No, they had gone.
Right. So you want to get back the $5?
I have to get €10.
Right.
To the Ramelton Festival organisers because I'm into them for €10.
Right. Are you?
Yeah.
Well, sure, you give me the tenner and I'll make sure they get it.
I don't trust you. Can you put me directly in contact?
I can. I'll do it.
So I'm currently running around.
With a tenner in your pocket?
And I've absconded.
No, I'm gonna hold you accountable for this.
Well, this is why I brought it up, you see.
No, you're very good.
Yeah. So I have to get a tenner.
So you were late to bed last night, so the fireworks good then. Good
it was
crowd.
brilliant, yeah.
And it stayed dry, did it?
It did, yeah. I didn't see any rain, yeah. Brilliant.
Lovely.
It must have been it's amazing what they do in local communities.
Isn't it great?
Create these
But there's so much organising and small, festivals take a lot of big effort and committees and work.
Yeah. And often the committees are really quite small as well.
Yeah. Sometimes the best committees are the smallest,
But anyway, so that's it.
Tenner it is,
I
then.
can't really concentrate today because I'm €10 in debt.
That's all right. I can take it from you.
Okay. But
what?
What will you do with it?
I get your receipt. How's that? Just keep it. Okay. God, this sounds like an RTE thing to me here now. God almighty. How will I know?
We could create a barter account.
No, you could go ahead now and talk about that all day today.
All right, see you later. All right, thanks very much, Lee, for helping me out there. All right, it is just a minute past 9 now. Let's get a news update and cross over to Donna Marie Doherty. Hi, Donna Marie.
Hi, Greg. Good morning. The Minister for Agriculture, Charlie McLaughlin, has condemned what he calls shocking practices over the way farm animals are treated by certain owners. He was responding to scenes of animal cruelty on RTE's Primetime Investigates last night. The Minister has requested a copy of the programme. Speaking to Highland Radio News, Minister McConnell said his department is launching an investigation.
And I know as someone who's gone to march in Donegal all my life and who still attends march across our county, that is certainly in no way representative of what happens in the vast majority of our march. But it did happen in these instances. RT uncovered it, and there's an investigation now underway by my department, and we will be following this up robustly and vigorously. This type of behaviour is absolutely unacceptable. Nobody could condone it, and it's certainly not acceptable in our agricultural sector.
Over 1,000 Donegal suckler farmers have applied to join the new Suckler Carbon Efficiency Programme, but around 40% have yet to become members of Board Bia's Sustainable Beef and Lamb Assurance Scheme. One of the conditions attached to the scheme is that farmers must have been audited and cleared by Board Bia by October 16th. Coordinator Damien Murray says that process can take up to 3 months, and applicants to SCEPT that have not yet made contact with Board Bia should act now. He says the audit and application process is free and is not something farmers should be nervous about.
I say over 95% of what we look for farmers will be doing already is part of their legal requirements for cross-compliance and other inspections. And also there's an important fact that there's no such thing as a fail on the day with the Board B audit. So if there's non-compliance raised on the day, the farmer gets a period of time to rectify that and sort it out and become certified. So there's no such thing as a fail on the day. Well over 90% of our audits actually pass on the day, but that small percentage that actually there is an issue, they actually have a period of time to sort it out and rectify it.
Ryan Tubridy and his agent Noel Kelly will appear before highly anticipated Oireachtas committee hearings later. The two will be asked to account for hidden payments paid to the broadcaster by RTE over a number of years. Sean DeVoe says it's one of the most high-profile day committee hearings in history.
Ryan Tubridy, probably the biggest celeb to ever appear in a Oireachtas committee, and Noel Kelly's proximity to the stars leading to his appearance. It could be 6, 7, 8 hours of hearings when all is said and done this afternoon. A difficult gauntlet for anybody to run. These two hearings getting unprecedented coverage. Some pubs will be showing the committees. They'll be broadcast on RTE and Virgin Media and streaming on oireachtas.ie from 11 a.m.
Looking to the weather forecast for today, sunny spells and scattered showers. Some of the showers will be heavy with highest temperatures of 16 to 17 degrees in light or moderate west to northwest winds. That's all for now. I'll be back again with the next news update at 10 o'clock. Until then, good morning.
While on his lunch break at work, Sean switched to 48 Mobile. He got all data, calls and texts for the limited time offer of $6.50. That made him feel like he scored a goal.
Yes!
So he celebrated by pulling his shirt up over his head and knee sliding across his boss's desk. Good call, Sean. 48 Mobile. Good call. Subject to fair usage. $12.99 a month after the first 3 months. $6.50 one-time activation fee. See 48.ie.
The county's #1 talk show, the 9 till noon show on Highland Radio. And now it's time for the talk of the Northwest, the 9 to noon show with Greg Hughes on Highland Radio.
Hello and a very good morning to you. 5 minutes past 9 on this Tuesday, the 11th of July. You're very welcome along to the programme. How are you all keeping? I hope you're keeping very well indeed. And stick with us for the next 3 hours. We have Community Garda information coming up for you after 10 o'clock. Your opportunity for the first time to hear the latest appeals and information directly from An Garda Síochána. The CEO of Donegal County Council, John McLaughlin's in a little later on, talking about the local authorities' role in the new enhanced scheme. Maybe you have some questions in relation to that. And we hope to, if time will allow, bring you the opening statements from Mr. Tubridy and Kelly to the Oireachtas' committees. As I say, though, that's dependent on timing, but it looks like we can. So in other words, rather than you having to tune out at 11 o'clock, we shall bring those to you on this programme as much as we can. All right, so you're pretty well covered, aren't you? We try and do that every day here for you. Bring you everything that's going on. Right, we want you involved in all types of our conversations, raising your own issues, passing on your own information to us. WhatsApps and texts 086 60 25,000. From outside the Republic, that's 00353 86 60 25,000. If you want to give us a call, 07491 25,000. Again, drop the 00353. I would love, in this day and age, 2023, if you could have just one number, even if it was a little bit longer, that you could just dial or give out, that didn't have to have all prefixes and stuff from one place to another that's 100 metres apart. But anyway, you can email us. This is a universal address, comments@highlandradio.com. Right, okay. Let's look at the front of the newspapers today. We'll start with the Donegal Democrat, and the Garda Síochána Ombudsman's Commission, GSOC, is investigating whether an offence was committed by a member of An Garda Síochána when a 21-year-old woman was killed in a collision with a patrol car in May last. Rebecca Brown from Gallia in Derry was on a night out in Buncrana when she was hit by the Garda car early on May 21st. A solicitor for the family said GSOC initially launched an investigation into whether the actions of a Garda member may amount to breaches of discipline. He said that following a review of evidence, it was deemed more appropriate to redesignate the investigation. Conor Moylan of Madden and Finucane solicitor said the family of Ms. Brown have had concerns surrounding the tragedy from the outset and want the circumstances to be investigated rigorously. We will continue to work closely with the family to ensure a full and proper investigation is carried out. The front of the Derry Journal this morning, former Celtic and Derry City footballer Patrick McCourt has been given a 3-month suspended sentence at Derry Magistrates Court for what a judge described as a moment of madness. The 39-year-old of Wheatfield Court in Muff had been convicted in May after a 2-day contest of 1 count of sexual assault on January 30th last year. Passing sentence, District Judge Ted McGill said that the victim had been touched on her bottom in what he said was an incident that was brief but startling for her. Now, on to the Nationals this morning, and as you can imagine, pages 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, who do we appreciate? They're all dominated by, it seems, this RTE story. The Irish Times this morning, the future of star presenter Ryan Tubridy at RTE will be strongly influenced by 2 hearings at Oireachtas committees today, the station management has indicated. What would you like to hear? And what would you like to happen? Would you like to see Ryan back now? Has there been enough scrutiny? Has he been punished enough, if so to speak? I don't mean literally punished enough, but you know what I mean? Has he had to endure enough to say, right, you know what? Things were bad. Things are going to change. let's crack on? Or do you believe that he needs to find something else to do? Are there particular questions you would like to hear him answer? And do you just want this to go away at this point? Get involved in that part of the conversation as well. 086 60 25,000. Well, new Director General Kevin Backhurst pointedly declined to endorse Mr. Tubridy's future at RTE in a series of interviews yesterday, saying instead, we'll see how the week goes and what comes out of it. Later, he said he hoped to see maximum transparency and honesty from Mr. Tubridy and his agent Noel Kelly, who will appear at the Public Accounts Committee this morning and at the Media Committee in the afternoon to face questions about top-up payments to the Star, which were concealed by RTE. Mr. Backhurst said he hoped to come to a decision soon on Mr. Tubridy's future for Ryan's sake and for everybody's, but added that the views of staff would also be taken into consideration or account, because, of course, that's where a lot of the upset as it relates to that whole case is coming from. People who were working on certain shows, radio shows, TV shows, that took significant pay cuts and were on relatively low wages. Is that trust lost? Is that trust broken? But let's get back to the reality of our lives, because, it's fine for people who are very well off, but there's realities for those who aren't. The Irish Independent: a shortage of funds is stopping more than half of the population from taking out the financial products and services they would like, such as health insurance, life insurance, a pension and a savings account. Women and those on lower incomes are most impacted by the affordability issues when it comes to being able to purchase some insurance products that they would like to have. Similarly, more people in this category struggle to set up a pension or put by savings for a rainy day. And I think really what a lot of people do, they hope that really their savings is if they're lucky enough to build or purchase a house. And that's it, really. That's what they might bequeath or leave to somebody else, or that's their security, which makes that whole defective concrete block crisis even worse, because, all your eggs are in the one basket, and that basket can end up being worthless. But anyway, this information is according to a survey commissioned by insurer Aviva Life and Pensions Ireland, and a separate survey commissioned by AIB found the cost of living challenges and the energy crisis are affecting consumers' appetite for taking greater sustainable action in their personal lives. And it is about time, is it not, that we started seeing our electricity prices come down. It's crazy that it's still the way it is, and it's off the front pages and it's off the news agenda. But the truth is that's one of the biggest problems in this country at the moment. Wholesale price of electricity has dropped significantly, and we're still paying at the top rate. And especially with this weather, the amount of solar and also wind energy that's being created, it's meeting much of our needs at the moment. And we should be we should have a system whereby that benefits us immediately, rather than guaranteeing those energy producers the same price as coal or gas generated electricity. I mean, those are two simple things that needed to change. Pass on the savings. It's blowing a gale, and it's quite simple that when the weather is like this, we produce an awful lot of wind-powered electricity, but there's no benefit to us from that. And also, too, why is no one talking anymore about how the fact we're still being shafted, it seems, when wholesale prices have been so low for so long now, half of what they were when the current prices are set. It's been like that for ages, and yet we still aren't seeing the benefits from it. People are heading back to the high street, according to the Irish Daily Mail, which is good for local shops, local employers. The hassle of returning goods bought online and the need to get out and about is seeing more consumers returning to in-store shopping. And I was around Letterkenny I called down to Letterkenny Shopping Centre there a couple of days ago and was around the place another day. Packed, everywhere is packed. People walking around with shopping bags. It was like Christmas Eve. It's great to see in and out of all the different shops. So this article actually backs up what I witnessed myself, because I said to a few other people, I said the place is packed, people out shopping. Well, anyway, the Pennies Pulse of the Nation Index has revealed that more than 60% of Irish consumers prefer shopping in store as opposed to online. The report, run in partnership with Amarak Research, sampled 1,200 participants and sought to look at shopping patterns post-pandemic. The research shows 46% of people are less interested in shopping online today, citing frustration with returning items bought online, purchased products not being as advertised, and increased costs of returns. Yep, so there you go. My anecdotal observations and evidence have been backed up by research there. Okay. The big controversy affecting the media in Britain it's at the bottom of this paper. 1 second. I think that's the story that's next. Yeah. It's taken a particular peculiar turn, and I think this whole story actually is going to open up focus again on stuff that's printed in the mainstream media, but also what's posted on social media without absolutely any consideration for what's the truth, what isn't the truth. And again, I'm sorry, because I mentioned Twitter yesterday. It's not a hobby horse of mine, but it's just by coincidence. This story about the BBC presenter. I'll read the developments in the story and then make that observation. The young person at the centre of the BBC presenter scandal last night insisted the star had done nothing inappropriate or unlawful. Now, they engaged a legal firm that costs £750 an hour, which is really quite remarkable. But anyway, speaking through that lawyer via a letter written to the BBC, the unnamed person branded the claims made by their mother, who they're estranged from, as rubbish. The mother claimed her child had been paid more than €40,000 by the presenter over the past 3 years for sending sexually explicit pictures. She claimed that the money has funded her child's growing addiction to crack cocaine, and crucially, that it started 3 years ago when the youngster was just 17, making it illegal. She reportedly took her claims to a newspaper after becoming frustrated when a complaint about the presenter behaviour to the BBC on May 19th was ignored and the star remained on screen. Now, last night it was claimed the youngster, or the 20-year-old, had made it clear before the story broke at the weekend that there was no truth to it. A WhatsApp message is said to have claimed the story was wrong, but was ignored by the newspaper. The lawyer for the youngster, now 20, said the BBC last night, told the BBC last night, for the avoidance of doubt, nothing inappropriate or unlawful has taken place between our client and the BBC personality, and the allegations reported in the Sun newspaper are rubbish. Okay, so this person was widely named and continues to be on social media. But what I thought really quite interesting intervention is that Elon Musk, who owns Twitter and is the most followed account, underneath that story, he linked to a Wikipedia page about the I can't remember his name now. Jimmy Savile, yeah, his controversy and the BBC. But as it turns out, there might be no controversy currently at all. Now, some would say there's no smoke without fire, but I mean, if you do not have a injured party, which the newspaper, the Sun newspaper, doesn't have now, and all of those people that named this individual on social media, if there is no injured party, well, the libel cases are going to be historically large. Wait till you see how that pans out. Right, the Sun this morning. Weight loss jabs are being investigated over reports they make users suicidal. Wegovy and Saxenda will be examined by Europe's drug regulator after 3 cases of the side effect emerged in Iceland. Ozempic, which is the license for controlled type 2 diabetes, but also helps weight loss, is also under scrutiny. None of its treatments have suicidal feelings or thoughts of self-harm recorded by the European Medicines Agency as one of their potential side effects. All 3 are manufactured by pharmaceutical company Novo Nordisk. It says there have been used for up to 15 years now, and no link to suicidal tendencies has emerged from wide-ranging clinical trials, but they are still going to be investigated to ensure that is not the case. And there's a few controversial stories have emerged about those jabs over the last couple of months for one reason or another. Now, would you like to see July the 12th a bank holiday, or public holiday, let's call it now, in the Republic. Well, a Green Party TD has called on the government to make July the 12th a national holiday. Dublin South Central Deputy Patrick Costello said the day of annual marches in Northern Ireland should also be made a bank holiday in the Republic. He added, "Today I'm calling on the Irish government to make the 12th of July a public holiday. The day is an extremely important one historically for the island and culturally for many people who live here. As part of the peace process, we have made a number of gestures such as amending Article 2 and 3 of the Constitution, and he now wants to see the 12th, or the Monday close to it, a public holiday." I mean, listen, I wouldn't mind a public holiday every day, every Monday, 4-day weeks, that could be the future. But anyway, what do you think? Would you like to see that? Any comments on anything we've been talking about there? 086 60 25,000 or 00353 86 60 25,000.
The newspapers are courtesy of Kelly Centra Mountaintop Letterkenny, the 2022 C-Store National Off-Licence of the Year.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union, offering low-rate car loans with fast approval. Apply online at letterkennycu.ie or in office today.
The Paving Store, a creative landscaping works in Letterkenny, have all you'll need to give your driveway, patio or yard the wow factor. With a full range of Tobermoor, paving bricks and flags, walling, curbs and edging. They're also Donegal's leading supplier of millboard decking and cladding. They have the largest range of artificial grass in the northwest and a huge range of outdoor play accessories. See the unique displays and talk to the experienced team at the Paving Store, Lisnen and Letterkenny on 074 92 050 39.
While on his lunch break at work, Sean switched to 48 Mobile. He got all data, calls and texts for the limited time offer of $6.50. That made him feel like he scored a goal.
Yes!
So he celebrated by pulling his shirt up over his head and knee sliding across his boss's desk. Good call, Sean. 48 Mobile. Good call. Subject to fair usage. $12.99 a month after the first 3 months. $6.50 one-time activation fee. See 48.ie.
Highland Radio time checks with Expressway. Travel Route 32 from Letterkenny to Dublin when you book online and travel for less. Expressway, bringing you the time at
9:21. The dairy sector's bracing itself for the fallout from RTE documentary aired last night, which uncovered the mistreatment of young dairy calves at marts and investigated the controversial live calf export trade. Minister for Agriculture Charlie McConalogue says he strongly condemned what he described as the shocking practices seen on the programme and said they were certainly not reflective of the care that Irish farmers provide for their animals. A Department of Agriculture investigation has commenced and there's been a lot of reaction. We're going to get some now from Stephen Arthur, who is the Irish Farmers Association's National Dairy Chair. Stephen, thanks for joining us.
Good morning, Greg. How are you?
Not too bad at all. I presume you've half a day's work behind you already, Stephen, at this point. Such is the life of the farmer.
As you can see, I had my dairy parlour head on me this morning.
Oh, you're looking all right. If that's the dairy parlour head, okay. So, in terms of your reaction to this programme, how shocked were you by what we saw?
Listen, I was horrified now when I seen some of the treatment of our calves, because like every farmer in the country, and our farm is no exception, we mind our calves, we look after our calves. Like people get up in the night, they calve their calves in the middle of the night to make sure they have the proper colostrum, they mind their calves and do the job well. And they present their calves to the mart in good health to sell. And it's a no-brainer here. The better the calf, the better the price. So it's in farmers' interest to mind their calves well. And you know, the stats has shown that, Greg. Mortality rates are way down. The price for calves has improved this year as the quality of calves is getting better year on year. And to see that last night from we sat down and looked at my wife and my daughter, and we were horrified now to see it. And no farmer is condoning this. We have a zero tolerance to that kind of carry on with calves,
But what needs to be done to make sure then that it is not just a zero tolerance in attitude, but a zero tolerance in ensuring this behaviour is doesn't exist, or is it to an absolute minimum? What needs to be done?
Well, the Department of Agriculture are going to conduct an investigation into the footage last night, and that has to be swift and decisive action has to be took here. And regulation, Like the regulation, we have regulations inside the farm gate on calf welfare and animal welfare management, and that has to be carried forward. And there is regulations in yards, but it needs to be regulated. Like there needs to be department officers in the yards, in the marts. There needs to be overseeing what's going on. Like and that's where the game stops and starts, is with regulations being regulated, and it's not being done, obviously.
That's it, because these regulations, they're in place. There are strong regulations there. This what we witnessed was breaches of those regulations. So that means there are punishments, there are sanctions, and there should be enforcement and monitoring to make sure this isn't happening in the first instance.
Well, definitely. Like that's the department's remit, is to regulate. And where the regulations are broken, like believe you me, on the farmer's side of the fence, if we break regulations, we are fined. The penalties are imposed upon us, and the same has to apply at the other side as well. If the regulations are not being carried out to the T inside market gates, there has to be action carried out here, and obviously it hasn't been.
I spoke about live exports years ago, and it has been a concern for years. On the programme last night, a truck with Irish calves on was followed. It was on a journey to Spain, and the claim in the programme was that for almost 19 hours, the animals were transported continuously with only short breaks. Is there any way around that? As I say, live exports has been a controversy for quite some time now. It's something that bothers people.
Yeah, but right. And just firstly on the live exports, like there's 100,000 calves go to Holland alone, and like the Dutch companies that use the Dutch calves, they like the Irish calves. They're very efficient, they're robust. Like they're using 30% less antibiotics on an Irish calf than there is on a European calf, and they're killing on average 15 to 18 days quicker. So they're thriving, they're healthier. They're a better robust calf, and they like them on the market. On the transport, like I was a bit shocked to see that I thought that there would be regulations there, that the lorries would be logged, that there would be time logs on the lorries, that and then when you get to the end, that there's somebody at the end. I don't know what the regulations is in Spain. When the lorry arrived in Barcelona, I presumed that that there was they were regulated, that they would show their logs, their travel logs, their stop times, start times. I presume that's what was in place, but obviously the regulations in Europe and I'm not well aware of what's going on out there, but there's something seriously missing if they're not logged and checked and double checked. It's back to the regulations again, Greg.
And I'm sure it is a coincidence, but it is timely that a program like this comes out, when there is a big conversation about the future of the national herd, isn't it?
Yeah, but like you see what's going on there with the breeding program. And even this year, I think there was something like 30 or 40,000 less dairy bull calves born on farms this year, because it was the first year that sex semen really got going. And like you see, there's a couple of tools there that I think is going to work going forward in the future. First and foremost is the sex semen. Farmers are only breeding what they need to breed, because let's face it, nobody wants undervalued stock on their farm. If we can breed better stock, it's better for the farm business. And secondly, is the whole DNA testing of our genotyping of the herd. So we'll be breeding off our best cows. We'll put our beef calves onto the cows that are not suited for breeding replacements. I think the carcass beef value on the calves that's going to be listed in the marks, it's given farmers a direction of travel and how to pick calves that's suitable for market. I think the other thing that's coming out too in January is the ESTAS charter rights on calves. Like slaughtering the calves will be finished from 1st of January onwards, that you have to have a breeding program in place that shows that you're breeding away from slaughtering the calves, and that if you don't do that, your milk won't be collected. And that's a joint action involving all industry stakeholders.
And
so
finally,
I think they're all positives going forward.
And finally, I'm not trying to say what went on wasn't shocking, but it was the actions of individuals. It wasn't the actions necessarily of an entire sector. That being said, those individuals did engage in this behaviour, and others witnessed it. So there has to be, there has to be reporting of these cruel practices. The sector has to be seen to say this is actually equally shocking to us, if not more shocking to us, and to sort of take ownership of ensuring this is stamped out.
Yeah, there has to be a calling out of this, right? And like it's horrific to see. Like we rear our calves. I see what goes on in our own farm. We rear our calves in good faith. We take care of our calves. You bring calves to the mart, and you trust in the mart management to look after the calves, and that trust has been broken here. Like, you know, and it's going to take a good bit now to build that trust back up, I'd imagine. And you know, I think there has to be serious discussions held with the department, with the farm or the march bodies with ICOS and these people, and put a plan in place to show. I think the staff has to be handling how they handle their stock. You know, like it's again the law to have a stick or anything in the mark beating calves. Like that should be done away with. So we shouldn't be seeing that. Well, it's back to the regulation.
Is there an age? Is there an age limit as to when you can use a stick, or can you never use a stick?
Listen, anybody who's around their cattle don't want to use sticks.
Yeah, but you can use a stick.
It does happen.
You can use a stick, can you not, if the calf's over 42 days, no?
Sure, listen, if you have... Listen, it's all about facilities.
I know, but you can do.
It can do, yeah.
Yeah, you can do, just to be clear.
Yes, it is, right. Yeah. Listen, people use sticks over 42 days. That seems to be the law, like, you know, but... In the best practice on farms, you try to have your animals reared right, kept in good manner, and have your facilities in your farm good enough that you don't have to hammer the daylights out of cattle to move them anywhere.
Right, okay.
And that's the problem.
Just finally, a caller says it should be pointed out that in most cases, the people abusing cattle at marts and export sites are not actually farmers. It's not fair to make it look like that it's farmers who are the guilty ones. Do you think that's a fair comment?
That's a very fair comment. Yes, it's a very fair comment that people are staff in marts. They're usually minimal wage people, I'd imagine. They've had very little or no training on how to handle livestock. Like, these are stuff that has to be looked at going forward in the future. I think, like, you work in any job, Greg, you have to do a course on how to sit in a chair, how to lift the box, how to do anything before you start. Like, I think there has to be courses, maybe. Like, these are things that could be brought forward by the Department of Agriculture when their investigation is done. Recommendations.
All right, thanks for your time. I appreciate it. It's already been a busy morning for you. We appreciate you joining us.
Anytime, Greg.
Right, take care. Bye-bye. Stephen Arthur, who is the Irish Farmers Association National Dairy Chair. Did you watch that programme last night? What's your reaction to it? A caller says, why is the department not keeping tighter checks on these marts and vehicles travelling? Indeed, the rules are there. They just need to be enforced more rigorously. Another caller says, ridiculous, disgusting behaviour on poor animals. I had to turn it off. It was so cruel indeed. Some people would have made that choice all right.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook and at highlandradio.com. The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union, with monster loans available up to €60,000 for all occasions. Visit letterkennycu.ie.
Hey John, quick, write this number down. 91 48 234.
Say that again, Mike.
91 48 234.
So what's that, Mike?
The number for Fleming Doors.
Fleming Doors?
No, Fleming Doors. You know, industrial doors, garage doors, roller doors, insulated doors.
Ah, okay, Mike. Give me that number again.
91 48 234.
Fleming's, engineering solutions for 150 years. Call us now on 074 91 48 234.
House to Home Bridgend, Donegal. Our modest front door opens onto 2 floors of Irish-made furniture, suites, beds, mattresses, dining and occasional furniture. Step into our showroom and see how we can transform your house into a home. House to Home furniture, flooring, slide ropes and interiors, Bridgend, Donegal.
Nutrice Intensive Lamb and Nutrice Lamb Crib Crunch lamb feeds are now on promotion at your local Homeland. Buy 10 bags, get 1 free, or get €15 off per tonne in bulk. Nutrice Intensive Lamb Feed contains intake booster for higher intakes, better thrive and faster finish. T's and C's apply. Contact your local Homeland or farm commercial specialist today. Visit nutrice.ie for full product details.
Okay, the last time we were speaking to our next guest, there were concerns over the funding of the Donegal Community Stadium. This is the new stadium at Finn Harps, of course, and there's been a development in that regard, and we welcome back onto the programme Paul Mcloone. Paul, thanks so much for joining us. Good morning to you.
Hello, how are you doing this morning, Greg?
Good, and it's good to have you with us. Okay, so remind listeners, or in fact those who may not have been listening, when we spoke to you last, you'd gone public to express your frustration, and in fairness now you did give some civil servants at the higher levels, of course, quite a bit of a touch. So where were we at, and what prompted you to speak out publicly like you did?
Yeah. Well, the Donegal Community Stadium is an applicant under a scheme called the Large Scale Sport Infrastructure Fund, which was launched in 2018. Monies were allocated to 2020 to 33 projects nationally. And there's a real big problem with the scheme. Less than half the applicants have even got started yet. So the scheme just isn't working, and there's a number of reasons for that. Is that the percentage grant rate is wrong, the administration of it is too strict, inflation has kicked in, so nationally there's a huge problem with it. But we were allocated 4 million under the scheme, and critically on the 8th of June, a letter was issued to our applicant on our behalf as the FAI, and they were told that no other monies could be allocated to the Donegal Community Stadium project. And I was actually outraged with that letter, Greg, and that's why I went public at that time. I thought it was unfair and it was ridiculous because of the difficulties that we became aware of between the Department of Sport and the Department of Finance, that this scheme nationally wasn't working. So we were outraged that this letter was issued against the Donegal Community Stadium. We went on your show. The Sunday Independent also carried the story, but I'm delighted to say that on the 4th of July, 26 days after the first letter, there's been a major U-turn by the department, and they're allowing us to apply for additional funding.
Now, that's still a process to have been gone through, and we can't predetermine that, but we'll keep our fingers crossed. What is the significance of that, do you hope, if things work out as we would hope they might, Paul?
Well, the significance of that, Greg, is that in Cork 2 months ago, there's a €12 million project for a centre of excellence for soccer. And the champion for that and the applicant was the FAI. The project has collapsed, so it is not going forward anymore. So I was in great fear that our project would have a similar experience and would collapse. But this means we can top up what I'd call stage one. So I think we'd need about 6.5 million to get the first part done and about another 2 million to complete it. So it allows us to go in to complete stage one with the additional million, which we're going to apply for, and a further 2 million will complete the project. But critically for Donegal, Greg, we've had an extension to the planning permission twice, and we're running out of time. So if this project doesn't start soon, it'll end up like Glanmire, and this stadium will never be built, and it'll be an eyesore in Stranorlar for the rest of our days. And indeed, you said to me on the last show, what is the politicians doing about this? And that was a good prompt you gave me, Greg, because last week I contacted Patrick McGowan, who's the right-hand man, of course, Councillor McGowan, who's the right-hand man of Charlie McConaughey. I've asked for a meeting with the minister to get the monies allocated urgently to Donegal, and I've written to Martin Harley, who's also, that's his municipal district, and he's the mayor of Donegal. But because it's such an issue, Greg, between the departments in government, it really needs political will and a political push. So I'm calling on our own TDs and councillors to help us make this happen. We have all the administration done, Greg.
And this is, make no mistakes, a county-wide project. And Finn Harps is a county-wide club too, and does amazing work with young people and enhancing the offering all of the while. So can we timeline this a little bit then? So in terms of the 3.991 million, can that be drawn down? Can that get the diggers on site, so to speak? Or does it require a positive announcement in relation to the 1 million top up? And, you know, what's holding progress up now? And when is sort of the cliff edge in terms of planning?
Well, the cliff edge for planning is September next year. But really, you can't go to the wire with planning. You know, you'd need to have the stadium 3/4 built by September of next year. So the closing date for this top-up is the 4th of August. And that's why I've asked the politicians to say, you know, by the end of August, we need a decision. We need to get diggers on site at the latter end of this year. We do need the top-up, but we have also $1 million achieved through the FAI and Donegal County Council, who were very generous to us. So, and we borrowed 500,000. So we have $5.5 million in the pot. So the additional $1 million would, and it's a modular stadium, which we got to change that because we made a saving of $2 million at the request of the department about a year and a half ago. So if they give us the green light in early September, as I said to you, the administration, the tendering, that's all complete. We're ready to go. But all I'm asking for is, as you said yourself, if the political will is there to support this, and it'll happen. And as you rightly said as well, Greg, it's a community stadium for all of the county. It's for girls football, boys football. It's for schoolboys, schoolgirls, inter-colleges, inter-firms. It's not for one club. It's for all of the county, and the county deserves a stadium that we can be proud of.
Yeah, and finally, we're so close, and the momentum is such that if it were to fall at the final hurdle, you'd wonder if it could ever be brought to this point again. It's so critical, isn't it, that when everything is so close that it gets finally over the line, Paul?
Well, the warning is Glanmire, the one I tell you in Cork, and that was with Cork County Council, and that was a 12 million project. If this, we're going to lose 5 million, we're going to have a derelict site. This is a critical issue, and it's important for the county. And I'm doing this more as a passionate sports person for Donegal rather than anything else. So it needs to happen. And if everyone rows in together, it will happen, Greg.
All right, Paul, thank you so much for the update. Have a lovely day.
Thank you.
All right, take care of yourself. Thank you very much indeed. Paul Mcloone there. 08660 25,000 WhatsApps and texts to that number. Professor Kevin Coren, a regular guest on this programme. He's a professor of cybersecurity at Ulster University, but I don't think that title gives you your full range of skills, capabilities and knowledge, Professor Kevin. How are you getting on? Good morning to you.
Good morning, Greg.
Are you like I and many listening? Some, for others, it's straight over the head and a bore fest. But for others, it's like really quite fascinating. How closely are you tracking the emergence of Mark Zuckerberg's Threads and what kind of impact it's having on Elon Musk's Twitter, but more generally speaking, the social media landscape?
Yeah, I mean, it's astonishing. It's the fastest growing app to ever, hit 100 million. And a lot of apps have never hit 100 million, and it's only been 5 days. And of course, then Twitter was in trouble anyway because Elon Musk paid 44 billion for it. But earlier, before Threads was even released, it was revalued at 15 billion. So that's a huge dip of 30 billion he's lost, really.
And I think, he can take the hand out of Blue Sky or Mastodon and what have you, but this is a different kettle of fish altogether because it's Mark Zuckerberg's backing it. He's laid out quite clearly the kind of space that it wants it to be. He's pitching it as a completely different experience to Twitter, and I think Elon Musk is rattled, and quite rightly so.
He is, yeah. I mean, it really is a copycat. I mean, it's missing a few features like direct messages, and people are still complaining about that you can't see your users, the people you follow in chronological order. But Meta have come back and said that they're going to readdress it. So the clever thing, of course, that Meta did was linking this with Instagram. So it made the bootstrapping, in other words, signing up to the service so easy, really. You can do it within a minute, and it copies across your profile from Instagram and your photos, and then you have your followers who you already have on Instagram. So it overcame the biggest problem for new social networks, is the bootstrapping problem, really, because we know that the most useless thing ever invented was the telephone until someone else got a telephone, and then there's a network effect. The more people that got it, the more useful the network becomes again. So in the past, where social media, other social networks have appeared, me and other techs would go there and sign up, and send invitations, and of course you have to wait for your friends, and then by the time you go back, everyone's forgotten about it. But this really made it easy. And of course now he's complaining again. He's complaining about a lot, Elon, but he's complaining that engineers from Twitter, even though he fired half his company, have been working on this really. But it really is just like someone took the source code for Twitter and just put a white background and, put it online.
Yeah, but he also tweeted at that time when he got rid of all the staff something really quite derogatory, suggesting who would take them on or where would they go and work, and lo and behold, Meta found a place for them. Some people are saying, though, what's the big deal? You've got 2 billion active users on Instagram and you got 100 million of them to click a button out of curiosity, that it's sort of like artificially successful, and it's not really necessarily an indication of how long it might hang around.
Exactly. Because I go to it a few times a day to see, do I find it as useful as Twitter? And not yet, of course. People are generally posting hello or stuff I'm not so much interested in. But of course, I build up the accounts that I follow, usually, news outlets and whatever else on Twitter. And I haven't put the effort into doing that as much on Threads so far. But at the moment, I'm not finding it as useful as Twitter. So again, it remains to be seen, whether or not it will be a success or whether it's just something that people are hopping to at the moment, because, to see it as a new water cooler of the internet again. But it does have a chance, that's for sure, because a lot of people are cheese off with Twitter, because generally now the number of posts, you're limited to 600 a day. And of course, someone who's blue verified, and they're pushing the verification badge very much on Twitter, where you sign up for £8 a month here in the UK. So again, but that's cheese a lot of people off, and there have been outages. So what could happen if you had an outage maybe for a day or two or whatever, severe one on Twitter, people could be flocking there, because it is easier for content generators or, people who post content really to just simply post to both platforms. And that's what I do in my interviews now. Like all the other platforms, I just simply posted there. So if there was a major outage in Twitter or something else happens really where he cheeses off a lot more people could start moving there really, because it has the functionality now. It has 95% of the functionality of Twitter. And maybe some people like the fact it doesn't have as many stats there. It's not as busy, the interface as well. So that could work in their favor.
What do the public want, Kevin? And how do we figure that out? But anyway, I want your opinion on it, because, Twitter, what Twitter used to be, it used to be a place whereby you would go on, you followed who you followed, and primarily, it was news. There was nothing else there. There's other bits of noise, but it wasn't very noisy. Now what you have, and I suppose there's the For You and there's the following, but anyway, I think a lot of people sit in the For You. A lot of stuff is pushed towards you, and it's a lot of toxic stuff. Now that's only toxic if you find it toxic. Other people might love it, right? But he's actively, he tweeted there within the last couple of minutes, here you can be who you want to be. You might get insulted here, but at least it's real. As I said yesterday, and he might live to regret it to some extent, the BBC presenter story, he having a go at the BBC, put the Jimmy Savile article in underneath it. Now, as it turns out, that story might become really quite problematic for an awful lot of people. And then you go over to Threads and, there's the inspirational quotes there, and there's some other content there. A lot more famous people are there, but it's a very sort of sanitized, censored space. But then you've got the chaos of Twitter. It's really going to settle on what the public wants. I don't know if people want to be exposed to how angry and insulting Twitter can be all of the time. And I think they might see, as sanitized and censored as it is, Threads as just a better place just to chill out on your phone.
It's possible. Again, it comes down to the moderation applied, because Threads could easily become, full of extreme left-wing, right-wing views, really. So it depends on moderation. And that's one of the things that Twitter, got rid of a lot of the moderation team, really. So there are people annoyed about what's being viewed there. And of course, the advertisers pulled out of Twitter because they didn't want their content to be seen along a right-wing posts as well. But Threads could easily become, cesspool as well. And it depends. Yeah, Twitter is just different than the other ones again. But in some ways, they're saying that a lot of content people on Instagram are saying that they're seeing a dip in their traffic on Instagram because there's only so many hours in a day. So another social media app comes along, it's going to detract from the other social media apps as well. So in some ways, again, I know at the moment you can't really advertise on Threads again, but of course they're saying that they'll bring that in the future, maybe when it reaches 1 billion. But at the moment, it's not easy for them to monetize any content on there. Whereas on Twitter, you can actually. That they've introduced ways for content generators to to advertise and make money from their posts.
I think this will all come down to, you see, there's this presumption that people don't like censorship or rules, but if you've got two bars, one beside each other on the high street, and you can go into one and there's no censorship and everyone's doing whatever the hell they like, you can go in there and join them. Or you could go to a bar next door whereby it's the management's there's security on the door, the management don't serve people who've had too much and all, I don't think people really are quite against censorship as Elon Musk might think, really. If you know what I mean. I think people, I know when things are being censored or when people are trying to control how I'm thinking, but sometimes I don't mind because it's a more pleasant space to be.
Yeah, there's something there. One thing that Twitter gives me, which the others don't, and I guess Threads will offer the same, is I like seeing opposing views, like diametrically opposed views. There's people I follow on their Twitter accounts where believe that, of course, that Bill Gates was injecting with the vaccine. It was a complete conspiracy by the government to control the world. And then there's other people, I follow who, are still wearing the masks and still believe it's a huge threat and believe in, that you should have a vaccine every morning. So I like seeing these polarizing views on many topics again, and also in the war, because somewhere in between is the truth. Again, so I do like seeing extreme content as well that some people might want to see censored again, but there's stuff that none of us want to see really. But it is hard because what you have is, these platforms are, even at the moment, Threads is in 100 countries really. Of course, the EU don't have it at the moment, but again, so you have to have content moderators again in each country. And again, even if you took Ireland again in the north, then you'd have to have from both communities as well. And how would the Twitter management or Threads upper management know all these things? And again, how far back history goes, trying to moderate the content in Israel,
Yeah.
Again, so it is difficult on a global scale, really, to do that.
Yeah, I think it's not necessarily what you say, but it's more a case of you calling me a name when you respond to me in your views rather than the views itself. It's the tone of the debate and the conversation, and people sort of wanting the right to wrongly name a BBC presenter who may have done something or other. Do you know what I mean? And to want to defend that right to the death to wrongly suggest something, or one of the big conversations on Twitter was people wanted to be able to show that knifing incident in France, and they said Elon Musk shouldn't be censoring that. You know what I mean? I don't want to see that. I don't want to see young kids being chased by a person with a knife, but the defenders of free speech wanted that to be shown, and I still don't think we've all really figured out what we do and don't want to see.
Yeah, it is difficult. Just like I said, it's multi-jurisdiction, on the internet, and it'll remain so for a long, long time, really.
All right, listen, lovely to have you on the show as always, Kevin. Thank you very much indeed for your time. Have a lovely day. That is Professor Kevin Coren, Professor of Cybersecurity at Ulster University.
The 9 till noon show with Letterkenny Credit Union. Simplify your debts with a debt consolidation loan from Letterkenny Credit Union. Call us on 074 910 2126 or apply online via our app or in office today. Harkins have been providing customers with quality fireplaces, stoves and electric fires for over 30 years. And now you can experience the elegance of luxurious worktop from Harkins. Their experienced craftsmen can fabricate marble, quartz or granite worktops to your specification. So, if you're planning a new kitchen or bathroom or upgrading your existing one, Harkin Fireplaces can provide a quote for your quartz, marble or granite worktop. Visit their showroom in Ballybogan, Lifford, or call 9141109 or visit them online at harkinfireplaces.ie.
Sarah moved back first and then Stephen moved in beside her. With this new fibre broadband, they can work from home, so they don't need to live in the city. They love being back, of course. And I suppose there's no harm that they've a free babysitter on hand whenever they want it.
National Broadband Ireland is delivering our high-speed fibre broadband network to homes, schools and businesses across Ireland, no matter how remote or rural.
Granny! Oh, yes, dear.
Find out more at nbi.ie. NBI, building a limitless Ireland, supported by the Government of Ireland.
The one you've been waiting for. The McElhinney's summer sale is now on, with up to 40% off across almost all departments and massive savings across your favourite brands. Don't miss out on amazing offers. Shop in store at McElhinney's Ballybuffet or online at mcelhinneys.com.
I'm not the kind of person who wants to sit in a metal box. I don't want to slowly die in traffic. I want to ride a motorbike. And I want to keep riding a motorbike. I don't want to suddenly die in traffic. I'm not the kind of person who wants to lie in a wooden box.
Biking is a joy. Don't let it kill you. A third of bikers who have died on our roads were speeding. So ease off the throttle and keep within the speed limit. From the Road Safety Authority.
The Ryan Tubridy and his agent have released a statement today. Mr. Tubridy says we will be presenting key documents and new information to the two committees, which we believe will bring maximum transparency to the situation and address much of the misinformation which has circulated over the past 3 weeks. This is the first opportunity we have had to set out the full facts of what occurred, and we've spent weeks reviewing all the information about these issues. Mr. Tubridy will use his opening statement to set the record straight and call out some untruths. He'll describe the controversy as my darkest hour, both professionally and personally, and so on and so forth. So they're going to come out, they're definitely going to come out fighting, and it's like that song from Shaggy, I think it's going to be. It wasn't me. So we'll see. We'll bring you the opening statements just after 11 o'clock if they run to schedule. And you'll be able to watch them too on our social media, on the live stream, by the way. So tune in or stay tuned after 11 for that. Morning, Greg. In relation to Ryan Tubridy, in my opinion, his biggest mistake was leaving the Late Late Show when he did at the beginning of the year. He said he had no plans to leave the show he loved doing. If he was still a Late Late Show and came out straight away and answered questions, this would be over. No matter what happened, if you stand your ground, people respect you more. All that being said, I think it will make a big change at RTE, which is long overdue. Really balanced comment there, and I think much of what you say there is right. Greg, in response to yesterday's dilemma re perceived overcharging for fuel at certain filling stations, I now understand the reason. When you insert your debit card, insert your PIN, you're only authorising the card. The fuel company don't know how much money is in the account. The fuel companies have been defrauded by motorists authorising a card and filling up with little or no money in the account. To circumvent what happened, your card must have a balance of €125. That amount is deducted from your account and placed in what banks refer to as a shallow posting. This means that neither the bank, the retailer, or you have access to the cash until the transaction is cleared, in which case the balance is automatically refunded. Hotels also use this shallow posting for booking room services. This is to ensure that a customer doesn't walk out without paying. The downside is that if you only had a few €100 in your account while away for a few days, you could find yourself financially embarrassed. Indeed, and the thing is, you see, and what's problematic about it is that if you're going in to put €20 of petrol or diesel in your car, do you really want, even if you have £1,000 in it, do you really want €125 of your money sort of unavailable to you? You're only buying €20 or €30 of petrol or diesel. Now, this is only in some garages, and I would imagine they're going to change their policy in the not too distant future, but it's not up to us to take the hits, the general population to take the hit for people driving off or falsely registering cars. That's up for them, I think, to come up with a different solution. Because, as I say, particularly in a cost of living crisis, if you're going in to get a €10 or €20 of petrol or diesel because you can't afford to fill the tank, and then you're going to a shop and €125 has been frozen out of your account, albeit it will be returned, less the petrol and diesel, I don't think that really works in this day and age, to be honest with you. And I think it's something they're certainly going to have to look at. And, that business model inconvenienced the customer way more than it does the company. And I think there'll be a bit of a pushback on that. Lots of people texting in yesterday, and there's no point reading them because they were all the same. We did read them, but reading them out, lots of people saying that they weren't aware of this. They checked their bank and lo and behold, they were down that money. All right, okay. I want to say a good morning before we take a break for the news. I want to say good morning to John, Olive, Annie, Bernie, Paul and Audrey, amongst the many of you who are watching our stream across our social media channels and on our website. Just to remind you, you can watch this programme every day in its entirety, and most of our guests on YouTube, Highland Radio Ireland, which you can watch on your smart TV, which will have the YouTube app, or your Fire Stick, or your tablet, or wherever you want to do. Across our Facebook pages as well, Highland Hub, Highland Radio News and Sport. And as I say, on our website, click Watch Live on highlandradio.com. You'll be able to see Community Garda information that's coming up after 10. We'll also stream the opening statements for you. You'll be able to listen to them on the radio and watch the proceedings by clicking on our live stream as well. So that's all to come on this programme, just trying to find as many ways as possible for you to be able to fully engage in everything that's happening across the region and indeed across the country. All right, okay. Let us take a break for the news and obituary notices. Stay right where you are, as I mentioned, because coming up thereafter, it's Community Garda information.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union. Digital loans now available. Apply online or via our app today and get your loan transferred directly to your current account.
Buddy the Musical is back at the Millennium Forum from Tuesday 8th till Saturday 12th of August. Don't miss this multi-award-winning West End and Broadway smash hit musical. This is a show you'll never forget. Come and join the party. It's just Peggy Superb. Call the ticket hotline on 02871 264455 or visit millenniumforum.co.uk.
We're having an open event at SEAT. A chance to open our doors and open your minds to the possibilities of our SUV range. With the spacious 7-seater Tarraco, the bold and beautiful Ateca, and the sharply styled Arona, we have something for anyone open to trying something new. And in addition to our incredible July offers, you'll get a free 3-year service plan when you order during our open event. So join us from July 10th to the 17th and we'll greet you open-armed to the SEAT Open event.
Your local SEAT dealer is DMG Motors, Clogh Road, Donegal Town.
Live, on air, online and on the Highland Radio app. This is Highland Radio News.
Good morning, it's Donna Marie Doherty with the news in full at 10 o'clock. Ryan Tubridy has described the last few weeks as his darkest hour professionally and personally in a statement ahead of 2 Oireachtas committee hearings this morning. Some of the documents Tubridy and Noel Kelly have submitted to the Public Accounts Committee completely contradict what RT management have said. Political correspondent Sean Defoe has seen the documents.
The key document provided this morning completely contradicts what RTE management said last week. It shows the former Chief Financial Officer Breda O'Keefe gave confirmation in an email to agent Noel Kelly in February 2020 that RTE would underwrite the €75,000 a year coming from Renault to Ryan Tubridy. Last week she said the entire management team had been united against doing that, and it was basically suggested this had been a solo run from D Forbes to do the guarantee. Ryan Tubridy lists 7 untruths in his statement, including denying he was ever overpaid, saying it was RTE over-reporting. He says the Renault deal was never a secret and said he didn't take a cent of the €120,000 due to him between 2017 and 2019. Tubridy also says he wasn't consulted once in the Grant Thornton review, and because of RTE's accounting practices, the narrative of the last 3 weeks has falsely been that not only did he take a €120,000 payment which he didn't receive, but that he also contrived to hide it.
The Minister for Agriculture, Charlie McConalogue, has condemned what he calls shocking practices over the way farm animals are treated by certain owners. He was responding to scenes of animal cruelty broadcast on RTE's Primetime Investigates last night. The Minister has requested a copy of the programme. Speaking to Highland Radio News, Minister McConalogue said his department is launching an investigation.
And I know as someone who's gone to march in Donegal all my life and who still attends march across our county, that it's certainly in no way representative of what happens in the vast majority of our march. But it did happen in these instances. RT uncovered it, and there's an investigation now underway by my department, and we will be following this up robustly and vigorously. This type of behaviour is absolutely unacceptable. Nobody could condone it, and it's certainly not acceptable in our agricultural sector.
A Letterkenny councillor has described the closure of Iceland shortly following the loss of Argos as disappointing for the town. Councillor Jerry McMonigal says he feels for the staff involved at both sites. He hopes that the site and Courtyard Shopping Centre won't be empty for too long.
Yeah, look, it was disappointing that Iceland had pulled out of the courtyard and have closed their operation there. It was a fairly significant outlet. It was good to have in the town, and coming on the back of the closure of Argos, it was a bit disappointing. And, your thoughts go out to primarily those who work in both Iceland and Argos, and hopefully that the courtyard will be able to get another sitting tenant quite soon and get back to full capacity again.
Over 1,000 Donegal suckler farmers have applied to join the new suckler carbon efficiency programme, but around 40% have yet to become members of Board Bia's Sustainable Beef and Lamb Assurance Scheme. One of the conditions attached to the scheme is that farmers must have been audited and cleared by Board Bia by October 16th. Coordinator Damien Murray says that process can take up to 3 months, and applicants to SCEP have yet not made contact with Board Bia. They should do so now. He says the audit and application process is free and not something farmers should be nervous about.
I say over 95% of what we look for farmers will be doing already is part of their legal requirements for cross-compliance and other inspections. And also there's an important fact that there's no such thing as a fail on the day with the Board B audit. So if there's non-compliance raised on the day, the farmer gets a period of time to rectify that and sort it out and become certified. So there's no such thing as a fail on the day. Well over 90% of our audits actually pass on the day, but that small percentage that actually there is an issue, they actually have a period of time to sort it out and rectify it.
The Letterkenny Road in Derry is currently closed in both directions following a road traffic collision. Diversions are in place at the junction of Lone Moor Road. Drivers are advised to avoid the area if at all possible. Looking now to the weather forecast, sunny spells and scattered showers. Some of the showers will be heavy. Highest temperatures of 16 to 17 degrees in light or moderate west to northwest breezes. That's all for now. I'll be back again with the news headlines at 11 o'clock. Until then, good morning. The obituary notices this Tuesday morning, July 11th. The death has taken place of Declan Decky Boyle, 14 Giltex Drive, Letterkenny. Remains reposing at his late grandparents' residence, 32 McNeely Villas, Old Town, Letterkenny. Funeral from there tomorrow morning, going to St Eunan's Cathedral, Letterkenny, for Requiem Mass at 11 a.m, followed by burial in Newleck Cemetery. Funeral Mass can be viewed live on churchservices.tv. The death has occurred of Mary McShane, Upper Capiteelan. Remains reposing at her late residence until removal this evening to St Columba's Church, Carrick, for 7 o'clock. Funeral Mass tomorrow at 12 noon, with burial afterwards in the adjoining cemetery. The death has taken place of Felix O'Hagan, 77 Beldew Strabane, and formerly of Drummond Court, Strabane. Private cremation will take place in Lakelands Crematorium. The death has taken place of Peter Sweeney, Letterkenny, and formerly of Drumkeen. Funeral Mass this morning at 11 a.m. in St Patrick's Church, Drumkeen, with burial afterwards in the adjoining cemetery. Any inquiries to Con McDade Funeral Directors. The death has taken place of Anna Ferguson, Ard Clogher Carndunna, and formerly of Glasgow. Anna's funeral mass will take place this morning at 11 a.m. in the Sacred Heart Church, Carndunna, followed by burial in the adjoining graveyard. Family flowers only, or donations if desired in lieu to the Carndunna Community Hospital Patients Comfort Fund, care of any family member. Anna's funeral mass can be viewed live on carndunnaparish.com. The death has taken place of Liam Conwell, 23 Barn Road, Dunnamana, reposing at his home. Funeral mass presently taking place in St Patrick's Church, Killinay, Dunnamana. Interment afterwards in the adjoining cemetery. The Requiem Mass can be viewed live via the Donaghedy Parish YouTube channel. The death has taken place of Deirdre Drum Pierce, Swords, Dublin, and formerly Strabane. Requiem Mass presently taking place in St Mary's Church, Melmount. Interment afterwards in the adjoining cemetery. Donations in lieu of flowers, please, to St Francis Hospice, care of Quigley Funeral Directors, Strabane. The Requiem Mass can be viewed live via the parish webcam. For more details, including any family health guidelines for wakes and funerals, please go to highlandradio.com.
Whether it's a 5 or 10k, half or full marathon, everyone's running journey is different. Find your pace with the Summer of Running series with Irish Life Dublin Marathon. Search Irish Life Summer of Running series to sign up. A better life with Irish Life.
Text or WhatsApp your view to Greg on 086 60 25,000.
And thank you to those of you already who have. Good morning to you again, by the way. Welcome along to the 9 till noon show. A caller says, if you think anything will be done to quell animal cruelty at marts, etc., you should look what happened in Northern Ireland. Tamara Bronkers was a Department of Agricultural chief vet. She blew the whistle on animal cruelty. She was harassed and eventually fired from her job, but she sued and was awarded 1.25 million in compensation. There's no appetite by anyone in authority in this country to put a stop to wrongdoing. Hi, Greg. As expected, just the usual response from farmers and the minister that they're shocked and knew nothing of these abuses. If they were so concerned, they would have made it our government's business to find out. It's not as if it was only happening these past few months when it's been happening for years. And it's a little bit like, is it, the other controversy that we've been talking about, that maybe we should be expecting a little bit more of an oversight from our ministerial departments and the various committees to actually do regular inquiries to say, anything ongoing at the moment in that sector that requires our attention, any reports of cruelty or any rumours or rumblings, and let them investigate it and expose it rather than, the media being the middleman exposing issues, and then the overlords, they're all shocked and this is crazy. Let's bring the guilty parties into some sort of a committee, or let's have an investigation. Should those sort of checks and balances not be more rigorously enforced so that there aren't these stories for the media to expose? And no one seems to be sort of asking that question. Who was asleep at the wheel? Hi, Greg. Wondering if anyone else is having problems with electricity this morning in the Listilian area. It's going on and off constantly. That's coming in from Maggie. Are you in that area? I think Maggie's more or less probably just wanting to rule out a local issue to her property. So if you are having intermittent outages in the Listilian area, let us know. Massively annoyed to wake up to no power in Stralongford, Cullion this morning. There are 204 houses without power, and we were told this won't return until 1 p.m. or even later. Seems to be a recurring thing in this area. The one thing I will say about the predicted times from the ESB, often it comes on much sooner than that. I think normally that's at the latest. That's in my experience, but I'm not hopefully giving you false hope. Right, okay. Greg, here's something that I think listeners should be aware of. My car insurance was due for renewal on the 23rd of last month. The quote from my insurer was €340, which was acceptable to me. I was surprised when on the 22nd I got an email thanking me for remaining with the company and that my renewal documents were attached. I had not renewed and thought it was a mistake. I checked my bank app and found that the renewal fee had been deducted. I rang them to say that I had not renewed, but I was told that I had signed up to automatic renewal. I said I wasn't aware of that, but was told that when you are reading out the prepared script, when you renew by phone, that you agree to automatic renewal. I was not aware. I likened their spiel to the air stewards giving out safety instructions. I wasn't really paying attention. I then found out that they had automatically renewed my house insurance, which was €980, although I had already renewed with another company for €340. Luckily, I had sent them an email to say I wouldn't be renewing that ridiculous quote. On that basis, they refunded my money. Otherwise, I'd be penalised for cancelling the contract. I don't know if automatic renewal applies to all companies, but people need to be careful. I'd be interested to know what Seamus Gunn thinks of the legality of this manner of renewing insurance where there's an element of subterfuge involved. And it's an interesting one. And I can only speak from my perspective as one individual. I just presumed that happened. When I get the documents from the insurance companies, it's effectively, this is what it's going to be. If you do nothing, it's renewed. And for me, if I'm happy enough with the quote, that's handy because the direct debit just goes through. I don't have to talk to anyone and blah, 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 blah. So I thought this was the norm. And until I started shopping around and switching more, I actually really thought it was quite convenient. So as soon as I get my insurance renews normally in January. So as soon as I get the reminder in early December, I look at the quote, shop around, and I either move, and if I can't get an improvement, I stay, and then it does auto-renew. I thought that kind of was par for the course. I didn't think it was something I opted into. I just thought that's the way it was. But for others listening, I think that information you've shared there is going to be very useful. Hi, just checked my bank there. It also took €125 out of my account, and I only put 40 in at probably the same station. Another, I just checked my account. The same thing happened to me, and I didn't even notice. I do have a direct debit tomorrow, so now I can transfer money. But what if I didn't have funds elsewhere to transfer? This is in one or some of the Go fuel stations where you put your card and put your PIN in, even if you're only getting 30 or 40 euro of petrol or diesel, 125 is frozen on your account. It doesn't actually go to the company. It's sort of, as someone mentioned earlier on, a shadow payment. It is eventually returned, sometimes immediately. It can take 2 or 3 days. And we're just getting that information out there so no one is caught out. All right. Let us take the bingo numbers. Community Garda information just around the corner.
The county's #1 talk show, the 9 till noon show on Highland Radio.
It's time for NCBI Bingo on Highland Radio.
It's Tuesday, the 11th of July. You're playing on a brown coloured sheet. The reference number is S17. It's game number 28. The numbers are 79, 32, 35, 43, 76, 62, 51, 71, 27, and the number 4. Phone your claim to 9104833 before 8 p.m. tonight, leaving your name, contact number, and the name of the shop where you purchased your book. Get all your NCBI Radio Bingo information at highlandradio.com.
At Cherrymore Kitchens and Bedrooms, we are now operating out of one new state-of-the-art showroom in Donegal Town. And we invite you to visit our new 5,000 square foot Donegal Town showroom to discover the latest eye-catching designs. Remember, at Cherrymore, you're dealing directly with the manufacturer, which means high-quality kitchens at factory prices. Start planning your dream kitchen or bedroom by calling Cherrymore on 074 9725 822. Cherrymore, 25 years delivering value, quality and service all over Ireland.
All men's wedding suits packages are now 20% off. Just book your wedding suits before August 31st and get a whopping 20% off. Don't stand still. Evolve. Letterkenny Retail Park. Terms and conditions apply.
The 9 till noon show with Letterkenny Credit Union, now offering mortgages from 40,000 to 600,000 euro with no hidden fees or transaction charges. Letterkenny Credit Union, 9102127. The Community Garda information slot is brought to you by Sheridan Security Systems, protecting what you value most. Call today and get your zero-wire alarm system from €299. Sheridan Security, 91260025.
Okay, it is 17 minutes past 10 on this Tuesday, the 11th of July 2023. It's time now for Community Garda information, and delighted to welcome back into studio Garda Grania Doherty. Thanks very much for joining us again, Grania.
Yeah, good morning, Greg.
Good to have you with us. Okay, we'll get straight into it because your colleagues are investigating the burglary and theft of a vehicle in Buncrana.
Yeah, so this incident happened in the area of Lochview, Buncrana, in the early hours of Wednesday, the 5th of July, so in and around 3:45am. The patio door of a house was opened and entry was gained to the house. Now, the door wasn't damaged. This door had been left unlocked, this patio door. So the keys of the car in the driveway of the house were stolen from within the house, and then the car subsequently was stolen also. It was a black Audi A4, registration number AX66MVU. So the stolen car was immediately driven in the Derry direction, so along the R238. It was then located in Burnfoot village, so not long after, actually 4:02am, and it had been crashed just in the middle of the village there. So we're appealing to anybody who may have observed any sort of suspicious activity in the area of Lochview where the burglary took place to contact Garda, and if anybody's seen this vehicle, this stolen car, being driven along the R238, So the Buncrana to Derry Road between 3:45am and 4am. If they travelled on that route, and the usual appeal if they had a dash cam, we would ask them to make that footage available to us. We're also interested in hearing about any sightings of a silver Volvo Jeep that was believed to have been observed in that area on the date in question around those hours. So if anybody has any information to pass on, then contact Garda in Buncrana on 074 932 0540, or as always the Garda confidential lines there on 1800 666 111. And just to make people aware, I know we mentioned this before, but when you contact that line, the Garda confidential line, you're through automatically to a voicemail service. So, you know, there's no requirement on you to leave your details. You just leave the brief message. That's it. It's totally confidential.
All right. The next appeal may or may not be connected.
Yeah, so Gardaí again, Buncrana, they're appealing for information in relation to an attempted theft from a car. So this happened in the area of Ardcrana. So on the same date, the early hours of Wednesday, the 5th of July, shortly before 2am. So a resident in that area, they heard the car horn sound, and they looked out. They seen a man in the driveway of a house. This man had his hood up, covering his head. He fled the scene. Again, we're interested in any sightings of this silver Volvo Jeep in that area around that time. So the car that was parked in the driveway in question had been unlocked. The man had opened the glove box, but nothing had been stolen from within, so possibly when the horn was activated in the car, he fled. So we're appealing again to anybody who may have seen any suspicious activity in that area on the date and time given to contact Garda in Buncrana on 932 0540. And again, if anybody travelled within that area or within the general Buncrana area in the early hours of Wednesday the 5th of July who had a dash cam, we would ask them to make that footage available to us.
Okay, car stolen in Letterkenny now.
Yeah, and unfortunately this is becoming quite a common appeal every week now in relation to the theft of cars. This car was stolen from the Ard Ban area of the Long Lane in Letterkenny in the early hours of Thursday the 6th of July in and around 4:30am. So CCTV has been viewed and has captured two males, and they forced the door open. This car was a silver Mazda Demio, partial registration 10KE17. It was later located on that date, later that day at 2:05pm in Beechwood Grove in Lifford. So if anybody seen again any suspicious activity in the Ard Ban area in and around 4:30 in the morning of July 6th, we're asking them to make contact with us. We're also appealing to anybody who resides in the area of Beechwood Grove, Lifford, just to contact us in Letterkenny on 9167 100. You know, they may have seen this car being driven in that area or parked up, abandoned there. And I'll just give the partial reg again. It's a silver Mazda Demio. The partial reg is 10KE17. So any information may be passed on to us in Letterkenny on 9167 100, or again the Garda confidential line.
Yeah, now this is a relatively small car. It's the most, not necessarily one of the most commonly known Mazdas. Is it worth reminding, and I'm not sure if it's the case in this car again, that people are targeting specific types of vehicles that maybe don't have immobilizers, they're easier to steal?
Yeah.
Because you can after the fact get an immobilizer fitted, but as you say, this is happening on such a regular basis. Maybe no harm to remind people just to check what security features their vehicle have, and if they need to be upgraded or looked at. This is no fault to the car owner, of course, that maybe it's something they need to look at, because, as I say, this is happening on a pretty regular basis at this point, Grania.
Of course, yeah, and there's a rising trend, and you would notice even on the weekly radio slot here, there's a lot of Japanese import cars being stolen. And some of these cars just don't have the security features that other cars do have. So if you have one of these cars, just check the security features. Perhaps get a steering lock or an immobilizer. You know, just check what security features it has and maybe get them enhanced if possible.
Yeah, and the reason I wanted to reiterate that is the people who are stealing these cars know. So we have to empower ourselves with the knowledge, don't we? Because they clearly know what cars may or may not be more vulnerable. I'm not saying that's the case with that Mazda, but it's just worth us all just double checking what features our vehicle has. Right, let's head back north. A burglary being investigated now.
Yeah, this burglary happened. It was actually at a vacant property in the area of Gartnaskey, Burnfoot. So it happened between July 6th and Thursday, July 6th and Sunday, July 9th. So the window of a garden shed at that property was smashed. The lock was removed from the garage door. It wouldn't appear that anything was taken from the shed. So we appeal just to others living in that area just to contact Garda in Buncrana if they observed any suspicious activity between those dates. 932 0540 is the number for the guards in Buncrana.
All right, okay. Now, an investigation into a burglary in Ramelton now.
Yeah, this burglary happened in around 11. Well, CCTV was checked, so it's fairly precise. The time 11:04 p.m. on Saturday, the 8th of July. So this happened at a garage premises in Drummond, Ramelton. So a large quantity of alloy wheels were stolen from the premises. So the lock was cut from the gate in order to gain access to the garage. So given the amount of the alloys that were stolen, the vehicle used by the suspects would likely have been a van or maybe some sort of vehicle towing a trailer. A lone male wearing a light coloured top, gloves and a balaclava was captured on CCTV. He's believed to have left the scene in the direction of Tully Graveyard or Ballyar football pitch. So information sought from anybody who was in the Drummond Ballyar area on Saturday night the 8th of July between and around maybe 10:45 and 11:15 p.m. Especially those who had a dash cam were interested in receiving the footage from them, or anybody who might have noticed any suspicious activity. And this was the Saturday night of the Lennon Festival. There was quite a crowd round that area, so we're hopeful that somebody might have some information that might assist us with this investigation.
Yeah, it's just after dark, and as you say, a van or possibly a vehicle drawing a trailer. Right, okay. Criminal damage in Clonmalley's. Clonmalley's the next appeal.
Yeah, this one happened on Friday the 7th of July. In around 11:10 p.m, Garda and Buncrana were notified that a criminal damage incident had just occurred at a house in the area of Crossroads, Clagan, Clonmany. So the incident's believed to have happened between 10:45 p.m. and 11:10 p.m. So a panel in the back door of the house was smashed. The house alarm was then activated. Gardaí were notified. No entry was gained to the house, and we're just appealing to anybody who travelled in that area between those times, who had a dash cam, to make contact with Garda and Buncrana. And if anybody noticed again any suspicious activity in that area, please pass the information on to Garda and Buncrana on 9320540.
All right, okay. And the last one is a bit of a strange one. This was on Sunday last.
Yeah, this is quite a worrying one, really. Yes, an unusual one. So Sunday the 9th of July, a driver, they were travelling along the Ileach Road in Buncrana in and around between 3:10 p.m. and 3:15 p.m. So this driver, they were approaching the traffic lights to travel onwards onto the Cockhill Road. They slowed when they approached the traffic lights. This motorcyclist pulled up alongside the car on the driver's side. The motorcyclist was irate. They were revving the engine and shouting at the driver. They started to repeatedly punch the car. So this driver then obviously was terrified, drove onwards towards the Cockhill Road, and the motorcyclist followed alongside the car and persisted with this behaviour, shouting and punching the car. The driver then turned off to travel in the direction of Carndonagh. So she stopped the car at Umbercam. The motorcyclist then bent the wing mirror backwards on the car before taking off. The motorcyclist left in the direction of Carndonagh. They carried on down the road. So we're appealing to anybody, look, if anybody observed this, if they travelled on the Ileach Road, Cockhill Road, or if they turned off there at Umbercam to head in the direction of Carndonagh, if anybody witnessed it, we'd appreciate if they would make contact with the Gardaí in Buncrana. Again, a dash cam footage would be very helpful to us. If anybody travelled along any of those routes, the Cockhill to Umbercam on towards Drumfreeze, Carndonagh, or indeed if they travelled from Carndonagh to Buncrana and they had a dash cam, we would ask them to make that footage available to us.
Yeah,
it's quite a terrifying incident for the
and
driver.
Prolonged as well, which is, you might see a bit of road rage out and about, but this is a sort of a prolonged thing, and there was damage to the vehicle. It's a crime, and someone saw it. It's just a case of that person or persons making that information available to the Gardaí, because they've gone home and said, you wouldn't believe what I saw today, but it's something that's being investigated and the guards need to hear that information. Okay, so we're all sharing the space, including those on horseback. We do come to this from time to time, and you want to give it an airing again today, Grania?
Yeah, I suppose it's not really a topic we discuss that often, but I did receive correspondence actually a couple of weeks ago from a man, and he's part of a horse riding group within the local area here. And this person, he expressed concerns just really in relation to the danger faced by the horse riding group when they're out and about on the roads. He did say in his letter that they try to avoid the public roads, insofar as is possible, but from time to time when they're going up and down these trails, they have to enter the public road space, to get from one trail to another. So he explained various dangerous scenarios that occur regularly when the group are out hacking on the public road. So I just want to outline a few simple steps that motorists should take just to keep themselves, the horse and the rider safe should they encounter a similar situation while out driving. So the first thing is reduce your speed, be patient, be prepared to stop. The person on horseback, of course, they have a much better view of oncoming traffic, so obey their hand signals. If they're giving you a hand signal. They have a better view than you have in your car coming behind them. Keep a safe distance between your vehicle and the horse. When overtaking the horse and rider, don't drive too closely behind the horse, and ensure to leave at least the width of your car between your vehicle and the horse when passing. Always be careful when passing, as a horse may startle. Don't use your lights or horn in a way that may blind or startle the horse. This could cause the rider to lose control of the animal, and some horses are startled by the use of air brakes also, so that's just something for maybe lorry drivers, to be aware of, or bus drivers. And when you have passed the horse, drive away slowly, don't tear off once you've overtaken the horse, just drive it in a slow manner. I put a post on the Garda Síochána Donegal Facebook page yesterday with tips for people should they encounter horse riders out on the roads. The letter, the main concerns are that I suppose a lot of motorists, including myself, maybe it's not something you encounter that often on the road. You don't, from time to time you might, but sometimes his concerns were some drivers are coming at speed. They continue to overtake the horse and the rider at speed. Some of them and he did state this in his letter, he said it's not out of malice, it's more out of ignorance,
not knowing the right thing to do.
Not knowing the right thing to do. And some drivers, while they're overtaking, then give a beep, and that might startle the horse.
And it could be a courteous beep.
It could be a courteous beep, through no harm of their own. They're trying to be polite, but this could startle a horse. The horse rider could lose control of that animal as a result of that. So it's just for people to be aware. It's a shared space, and just to be aware of what to do.
You just need to be nicer to each other. A bit patient, think on each other a bit more.
Exactly, yeah.
All right, listen, Grania, thank you very much, as always. And as Grania mentioned, that information is available for you on the Garda Síochána Facebook page. You'll be able to watch back to this item as well.
Can I just say one more thing?
Yes, of course, Grania.
You know me, I always have something else to say. Just one last thing, but I just noticed the past few weeks the appeals, and this is in no way proportion and blame to anybody who's been a victim of any sort of crime, but it just would appear from a lot of the appeals that a lot of doors are being left unlocked. Yeah. A lot of house patio doors, front doors, people are going to bed, they're leaving them unlocked. Car doors, we would just appeal to everybody, please. These people are out there, they're opportunists, they're going to seize the opportunity. Possibly if your door's locked, they're going to force the door, if they want to get in, they may still try to get in, but we would appeal to people, just don't make their life easier. Make sure that everything's locked up. Before you go to bed, lock up all your windows, doors. Make sure that your car's locked. On show. Don't leave your car keys on show. Unlock your car, even if it's in your driveway. People sometimes might feel safe. Their car's at home, it's in their backyard of their house, it's in their driveway. These people will take any opportunity they can get to get into your property. So please don't make life easy. Make sure everything's secure. Indeed. Okay, great advice, Grania, as always. Thank you very much indeed. Okay, as I mentioned, or I was going to mention, the Community Guard information will be available for you to watch back again on our Facebook page and on Garda Síochána's Facebook page as well, in Donegal, of course. And it's back with you live on the radio tomorrow, or not tomorrow, next week after the 10 o'clock news on Tuesday. All right, Grania, thanks once again. Thanks, Greg. Back shortly.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook and at highlandradio.com. The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union, offering low-rate holiday loans with fast approval. Apply online at letterkennycu.ie or in office today.
If the medical experts get it wrong, everything changes. From misdiagnosis or delayed diagnosis to surgical injury or even poor treatment, all have physical, emotional and financial consequences. We're here to help. So if your treatment didn't go according to plan, speak to our experienced medical negligence team at McElhenney and Associates. Find us online or call 074 917 5989. McElhenney and Associates Solicitors, Stranorlar. In contentious business, a solicitor may not calculate fees or other charges as a percentage or proportion of any award or settlement.
Milford Tiles Wood Flooring and Bathware, Milford Retail Park. New wood flooring just arrived. 8mm AC laminate, $9.99 a square yard. 10mm, $12.50 a square yard. 12mm, $14.99 a square yard. Beautiful 8mm AC4 gloss laminate, $16.99 a square yard. All in stock, fitters available. Milford Tiles Wood Flooring and Bathware, 083 091 0707.
Summer reductions on your favourite brands at Brian McCormick Sports, Brooks and Asics with 20% off. Check in-store and online. Brooks Glycerine and Adrenaline 22 GTS save 20%. Asics Keanu 29, Asics GT 2011 save 20%. Get ready for the summer and save 20% off your favourite kids' Asics trainers. Look the part, play the part. In-store and online. Click and collect on bmcsports.ie.
Donegal County Council invite the public to participate in the public consultation for the Letterkenny Active Travel Project at the Radisson Blu Hotel Letterkenny this Wednesday the 12th of July from 12 to 8 p.m. The project seeks to establish high-quality continuous footway and cycle routes in Letterkenny town to promote active travel journeys. See consult.donegal for more details.
Just to remind you, coming up just after 11 o'clock, if all goes to plan in terms of timings and what have you, we'll bring you the opening statements from Mr. King and Tubridy as they address the first of two committees, and much of what's going to be interesting and what will be quoted tomorrow will be in those opening statement. Quite interesting. People have had sight of it already, and some of the claims that they're going to make today have already been disputed by RTE management, which is really quite bizarre. But anyway, we will bring that to you. Audio for you on radio. If you're watching the live stream, you'll be able to see that as well. As I say, all going to plan in terms of timings and what have you. We're joined on the programme now by Barrister Michael O'Doherty. A very good morning to you, Michael. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning, Greg.
Good to have you on board. Okay, I think this comes in cycles about influencers and their finances and what they have to declare or don't have to declare. It comes in waves, and I think it's back to the fore again, particularly in the context of the recent controversies at RTE. So, what is the law governing social media influencers in how upfront do they have to be that they're promoting or pushing a product for payment?
Yeah, it is back in the news, Greg, and you said specifically because of RTE and these various issues. The law is, a lot of people are kind of slightly confused about the law, just kind of basically in terms of advertising and why influencers are used and what their power is. Advertisers traditionally have always been able to just advertise products on television or radio or things like that to a very wide audience, but they didn't really know their audience. They didn't know if it was the message was landing with them, and they didn't get direct feedback. So there was that on the one hand, and then on the other hand, there was word of mouth advertising, which is what advertisers always like. They prefer the word of mouth. They feel it's more personal, it's more direct, and it's a better form of advertising. The difficulty where word of mouth was tend to be one-on-one. Family and friends would get recommendations from a particular person who had used a product or service. And the advantage of influencers and why they're so popular is that they're a kind of hybrid. They have a very wide audience. Many of them have hundreds of thousands of followers on social media. But at the same time, they're considered to have this personal connection with their followers. And for that reason, the advertisers like using them because they feel like they're talking to people individually. They can gauge feedback straight away from the influencers if they offer discounts or codes or anything like that, so they understand how well their advertising is working. The difficulty with this is that in traditional advertising, it was the advertiser, the brand itself, that dictated how the ad was made. With influencers, it is the social media account holder themselves very often that entirely create the ad and create the message. So the legal onus is on them to not to breach copyright, not to use any images that they don't have copyright over, not to defame anybody, and most importantly, what you referred to there, to make it clear that the message that they are giving is a commercial communication and is not them just giving a friendly recommendation, because that falls foul of consumer law. There is the Consumer Protection Act 2007, and that's the central piece of legislation here at the moment.
In terms of the reality of the situation, so say I'm a radio or TV personality and I'm running around a shop picking up bottles of wine and going, oh, when I'm in here, I love this one and blah. It doesn't matter if I've never been in there before. If I say I tried this cream here and I have to say, within days, my skin looked like I was 25 again. I may never have used that cream in the past. There is stronger rules governing how you might advertise in a newspaper or on the radio or on the TV in terms of claims. Is there any legal responsibility in that regard as to the truth and the facts of what someone is being paid to advertise?
Yeah, I mean, generally speaking, Greg, legally, if you just like something and you go on your Instagram account, for example, and say, I really love this, I recommend that people buy it. There is no problem with that whatsoever, so long as you are not getting a commercial benefit from doing so. If you go on a holiday and you say, I love this resort, if you buy a pair of shoes and you say, I love this pair of shoes, everybody's happy, there's no problem. The problem occurs when you are being paid to do that. When a brand reaches out to you and gives you a pair of shoes, a pair of sandals, for example, and you wear them and you plug them on your Instagram account and you say, I love these sandals, they go with me everywhere, they're fabulous, I recommend them to everybody, and you omit to say that the reason you're saying that is because you're being paid to do so. That's when the problem occurs, because that falls foul of misleading advertising under the Consumer Protection Act. Unfair and misleading advertising is illegal. It is strictly forbidden under the 2007 Act. Now, the problem, as you can guess from an act which was created in 2007, is that it was enacted long before influencers occurred. So it was aimed kind of more towards traditional advertising. And the problem is that the law has been slow to catch up with this new form of advertising where people create their own content. And sometimes the message is a bit mixed. Sometimes they might say, oh, listen, I've been asked by this brand to reach out to you, or I'm doing a bit of work with this brand. And they don't make it explicitly clear that there is a commercial relationship, and that essentially why they're plugging it and why they like it is because there's a financial benefit to them to do so.
Now, I presume it's quite simple. If I'm a contractor for a major organisation and I'm paid to plug a product, I probably have a limited company as well, or whatever way it's set up, and that money would have to go through the books and you'd pay tax on it, because you're the business effectively. Now, I presume, there is the responsibility to do that, and because it's probably high profile, the taxman's going to have a look at that. But say, for instance, I'm giving a gift, I'm given access to something, that there's no actual exchange of money as such, and in some cases nothing is asked in return. Is that an income that I have to declare? Is there a tax liability on that?
Yeah, right. That's a very interesting question. And I think this is one of the central problems. You're absolutely right. If a brand pays you to plug something online, there's no controversy about the fact that that is income and you have to declare it. You are probably self-employed. You declare it in your end-of-year tax returns. If, however, for example, you are given a free holiday, but you are given it in return for posting 3 or 4 videos while you're on holiday saying how much you like the resort, or you are given a free kitchen and you take a video of it being installed and you plug the people who install it and things like that, no money actually changes hands, but you get the benefit of something that would have cost you money otherwise. A lot of people are confused about this. This is the equivalent of the benefit in kind tax, whereby you get a company car and you have to pay tax on it, okay? You, by law, have to declare anything that you got for free or even at a discount in your end-of-year tax returns as though you had paid for it. So if you get a €5,000 holiday and you don't pay anything for it, that is the equivalent of €5,000 of income that you have to declare in your end-of-year tax returns. The law is quite clear about that. I think the enforcement of it is not quite so clear. The degree to which influencers are chased or investigated for this is not clear. I certainly haven't seen anything in the papers about somebody being caught, but I suspect a lot of influencers who do this are unclear about this and think, oh, well, if I'm not getting paid, it's no big deal. There's no tax implication. They're very well maybe.
But if I then publicly claim that, yes, I was given this holiday, but it was just, they just gave me the holiday. They never really asked me to talk about the holiday. I maybe have been seen on holiday. I might have posted that I was on holiday, but I never, they never asked me to. So it's not really an income. It's a gift.
Yeah, it'd be a bizarre brand, Greg, that gave you free holidays and expected nothing in return.
Apparently it happens, Michael. Apparently it happens.
I think the influencers might claim that there was no obligation. I think if the revenue decided to get tough, they would approach the brand and say, was there a contract? Show us the communications between you. Show us what was discussed and was promised. I think you'll have difficulty getting away with that. As I said, very often, and I know for a fact in the publishing industry, free products get sent out to offices and people all the time, and there is no obligation. face creams, makeup, anything like that. They just get sent out more in the hope that the person will post about it. There's no contract, there's no agreement. That's absolutely fine. It's when it becomes a bigger thing, as I said, like a free kitchen or a car, the use of a car, for example. They gave me a car and they asked for nothing in return. Really? Do you honestly expect us to believe that? Brands don't operate in that way. There is a clear expectation that there is going to be something in return. And that's where the difficulty arises.
And finally, Michael, you know, I mean, the curtain's been pulled back on this influencing, this influencer situation a few times now at this point. I mean, are advertisers at any point, do you think, or companies at any point going to think it's kind of a bit of a toxic space to get into here now because people are awake to the fact that maybe they're being sold a pup? Or I personally don't think that's the case because I think we've got incredibly short memories, and as you say, the word of mouth is a really valuable asset. But I mean, do you think people might be looking at their advertising budgets and you know, there's already a pullback from some social media and online stuff and you know, do you think they will look at that and go, maybe the influencer scene's a wee bit toxic at the moment?
I think Greg, I think the problem would occur if the brand became damaged. You know, if it's just the influencer doing it themselves, does the brand really care? If they're getting the response, if they're getting the sales, they couldn't care less whether or not realistically, you know, the influencer is in trouble or is cutting corners or is being a bit fast and loose with tax or anything like that. The problem occurs, as it does in the UK, where influencers are named and shamed. We don't have that in Ireland. The Advertising Standards Authority publishes people who breach the guidelines on their website, but it doesn't name and shame them in the media. In England, they do. And when the influencers are named and shamed, the brand gets named as well. And it tends to kind of get lumped in with, you know, an appearance of wrongdoing. And that's the situation when it says, well, maybe we don't want to deal with that particular person, you know? But I think until the naming and shaming occurs, the brands are perfectly happy. Clearly, they are getting the response. Clearly, they like the use of influencers. Now, in tandem with other, it hasn't replaced traditional advertising, but is now a very important element. And unless there is kind of blowback against the brand itself, I don't see any problem from their end.
And very finally, in the interests of the consumer, but also, I suppose, to level the playing field, the Consumer Protection Act of 2007, if it's not already being reviewed and looked at, certainly needs some attention.
Yeah, it is. I mean, do you know what? You're absolutely right about the playing field. I think the problem has always been that traditional media, newspapers, radio stations, magazines, have always felt that there are guidelines aimed at them that they have to follow, whereas the social media influencers is the Wild West. They can do what they want. I think if it was seen that the law was being applied equally to everybody, then there would be no issue. The Advertising Standards Authority have said they are going to update their guidelines. They're supposed to be bringing them out in the coming months, aimed specifically at influencers. We'll wait to see if that happens.
Listen, really enjoyed chatting to you. Thanks so much for your time. Have a lovely day.
No problem, Greg.
Bye-bye. Okay, that's Michael O'Doherty. He is a barrister, just running through the rules and regulations that do or don't cover influencers and also their tax liabilities that may or may not apply to them.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union, offering low-rate car loans with fast approval. Apply online at letterkennycu.ie or in office today.
Harkins have been providing customers with quality fireplaces, stoves and electric fires for over 30 years. And now you can experience the elegance of luxurious worktop from Harkins. Their experienced craftsmen can fabricate marble, quartz or granite worktops to your specification. So, if you're planning a new kitchen or bathroom or upgrading your existing one, Harkin Fireplaces can provide a quote for your quartz, marble or granite worktop. Visit their showroom in Ballybogan, Lifford or call 9141109 or visit them online at harkinfireplaces.ie.
Get ahead of back to school this year at Dunnes Stores. From prepping for their very first day to refreshing their uniform, now's the perfect time to shop schoolwear for the adventures ahead. Pick up a 3-pack of playproof polos from just €5 and knitted school jumpers from just €3.75. Stock up on essentials like Easy Care joggers from just €5 and sweatshirts from €3.75. Back to school at Dunnes Stores for little ones with big schedules. Shop in-store and online now. Terms and conditions apply.
For the biggest names in perfume and aftershaves, visit McGee's Chemist Letterkenny. Dolce & Gabbana, Paco Rabanne, Carolina Herrera, Calvin Klein, Jimmy Choo and Burberry, Ariana Grande, Jean-Paul Gaultier, Vera Wang and many more. From timeless classics to celebrity favourites, there's a perfume or aftershave for everyone at McGee's Chemist Letterkenny and online at mcgees.ie.
Okay, you're very welcome back to the 9 till noon show. Joined on the programme now by Dr. Jared Rorty, who is a vet. Good morning to you, Jared. Thanks for your time.
Good morning. Good morning. How are you this morning?
I'm good. Right, your reaction to the RTE expose yesterday, broadcast last night. We had a reaction from the IFA already. Just it'd be interesting to get your views as a vet and your take on it all.
Well, I was totally horrified by the behaviour, and that's absolutely scandalous and can't be tolerated. But the one thing that I should emphasise is that programme showed no balance. That behaviour must be such a minority. I mean, I'm regularly in the 5 marts in this county, Donegal, Townston, Order, Full, Mulford and Cairn. The standard of animal welfare is incredibly high. We're world leaders in animal welfare. Now, if you go into any nursing home or if you go into hospitals, if you go into any businesses, if you go into enough of them, you will eventually find the 0.01% where you've got bad behaviour. And that bad behaviour highlighted by RTE was in no way can condone it. Totally condemned.
Was it put in context enough for you, Jared? Do you know what I mean? I suppose
it's not put in context. What you have to understand is what's happening in RTE. So first of all, the timing was obviously to deflect from the Ryan Tubridy. But also there's an agenda, there's a liberal left agenda within RTE that don't want us drinking milk. They don't want us eating beef. They don't want us milking cows. They want Ireland to be some sort of a great big forest where everybody's going to be living in high-rise flats. And I keep talking about the tremendous societal benefit of having family farms and people working in farms. So, no, I don't condone for a moment what happened. But what you need to emphasise is that is in no way reflective of the incredibly high animal welfare standards in Ireland. I mean, I'll give you an example. Over 40 years ago, I was sailing on boats from leaving Greenover in County Louth to go to Egypt with cattle as a vet, when no other country in the world was requiring a vet to actually travel out with the cattle. And it was like going out on a cruise ship. There was, remember one particular sailing, 1,222 cattle, 22 Filipinos and Dutchman and myself. So the standards overall in Ireland are actually way higher than anywhere else in the European Union or in the world. And yes, and it was right to be highlighted, but it's not in context. This was just an attack on Irish farming, purely to, as I say, deflect from the Ryan Tubridy and again to deliver the RTE agenda, which is an anti-people milking cows.
Well, I put it to the IFA rep who didn't bite, but you know, speaking to people out there last evening, in fairness, now it was prior to the broadcast, and there was a sense that, you know, when you're having a national debate about reducing the national herd, about, you know, tough decisions that will affect farmers and farmers sort of pushing back on those. I mean, as I say, I presume it was a coincidence, but it's a nice little piece to put out there.
Very much so. And you have to understand the agenda where this is coming. I worked in Saudi Arabia at what stage. I worked for the Crown Prince Matib work, and I was actually looking after his horses, but I would have known a lot of the vets that were working there and the dairy herds out there as well. So let's look at the carbon impact for milk and cows in Saudi Arabia. They import their alfalfa hay shipped by sea from Kentucky. They bring their maize and their soya shipped by sea from Brazil, all to come to Saudi Arabia, where they then desalinate the water in order to have water for the cows. So the argument is somehow or other that Ireland, which produces grass with water in abundance, you can see that from yesterday, we should stop producing cow, we should stop producing milk, we should stop producing beef to allow countries with a far, far higher carbon impact. Now, the problem is when people calculate the carbon and talk about the Irish national herd, when oil is produced in Saudi Arabia, the carbon impact of that oil is not attributed back to Saudi Arabia. It's attributed to where the petrol or where the diesel is consumed.
Mm-hmm.
When we produce beef in Ireland, 90% of the beef is consumed elsewhere. 90% of the milk powder goes out to China and so on. And that is where the carbon impact should be attributed to. But you have to stand back and look at where a lot of these guys are coming from. They don't actually want us farming.
And I think, too, we can have the argument, Gerard, and it's often made, yes, but everybody has to do their bit. But you could make a very strong argument to say, yeah, we're doing our bit. Let us produce the milk and the beef, because look at how we're doing it. Let others do the bit who are doing it with a far greater impact on the environment, unless we're talking about not drinking milk or eating beef at all. So in a way, our farming practices and continuing to do them is actually doing our bit if it displaces the practices that are more damaging in other parts of the country. The world, sorry.
Listen, you've hit the nail on the head. It makes an awful lot more. Take your sake of argument, the milk is produced in the Netherlands. That milk is produced in massive feedlots where they have a thing called zero grazing, where the cows actually stand in all day, and the alfalfa is brought over from the States, and then similarly they bring maize and so on over from South America. But you have to actually scrape the surface and look at these guys that talk about reducing the national herd. What they're really talking about is that they don't actually want us eating beef, and they don't want us drinking milk. Now, they can't run the sort of ads that they do in England where you see in the signs of double-deckers, meat is a murder, and, taking milk is taking babies from their calves. So they realise that's not going to work with the Irish public. So they have to do it in a more sinister way. And one of the sinister ways is, trying to challenge us unfairly on welfare, or try the carbon argument. And as I say, the carbon argument just does not stack up, because our cows, from a welfare point of view, they're out there grazing grass. We have a really, really low carbon footprint in terms of what we actually produce. Now, in terms of the expansion in the dairy herd that has occurred in the last 10 or 15 years, all we are trying to do, and all we're starting to do, is get to where we should have been 40, 50 years ago, had we not had an artificial quota imposed on us by the European Union. Nobody is talking about that debate. So what happened in the European Union, because we were so underdeveloped as a country, because economically that we hadn't progressed in the 50s and 60s, everyone else had become way more advanced in dairy production. Then we drew a line in the sand and says, right, there's a quota, thus far shalt thou go, no further. Nobody else is allowed to expand. So what has actually happened in the last 10 years in Ireland is we're only starting to catch up with other countries. But you have to go back and look at the real agenda of RTE, and the real agenda of RTE is some sort of a vegan agenda.
Well, let me, Jeremy, you've made that point. So, and so you've obviously given this some consideration. So, EU-wide, that agenda does not necessarily exist, because that we are negotiating deals that would actually see us importing cattle from Brazil potentially, right? So the aim is not to absolutely at this time anyway to eliminate beef consumption, milk consumption, but there is definitely a drive for us to reduce our production here. What is driving that? Where is the pressure coming from? Or is it simply that the farmers are seen as the easiest option to reach our targets across the board?
We are just seen, us farmers are just seen as the easy target. I will give you a case in point of what we were doing last week. We had an organic inspection last week from the Irish Organic Association, and the young fellas were home from school and they went out with the inspector. We have Galloway cows grazing 2,000 foot above sea level on Lavamore Mountain. Tremendous biodiversity for flora and our fauna. We produce organic beef. Very, very little carbon impact. So in terms of what we can do and in terms of what we can achieve nationally to reduce carbon, it's very easy to have a go at farmers. And I would be very critical of us farmers generally, because we are far too meek and we're far too modest in actually fighting our case and saying, hold on a second, we fulfill a massive societal role in farm families. We provide a tremendous role in terms of the economy. And this argument that somehow or other, by just devastating the national herd, it's an easy way to say, yeah, that's it solved. We've got a carbon problem, and we have solved the carbon problem by having a go at farmers.
Yeah, but how do you counteract the likes of a programme last night, you see? Because everything's an information war now. Well, war, it's a bit dramatic to call it that, don't get me wrong. But everything that happens is to capture
I am not for a moment, totally, I am not for a moment defending what happened.
No, I'm not saying you are. I'm not saying for a moment you are.
Those people should be prosecuted. But you have to look at it in the greater scheme of things. And in the greater scheme of things, and this is where there was no balance from RTE at all, if you went into Rafo Martin Thursday or into Milford Martin Saturday or Cairn Martin Monday, you would see incredibly high standards of animal welfare. And this is the difficult thing because, as I mentioned to you, if you went into enough nursing homes, you would eventually find 1 in 1,000 where standards fall. So you have to stand back and say to RTE, there was no context in what you did. There was no context in terms of you're actually saying that our animal welfare standards are acknowledged worldwide as being world leaders.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Listen, it's always an interesting conversation. Thanks for your time this morning. Have a lovely day.
Brilliant. Let's talk soon.
All right, take care. All right, that's Dr. Gerard Rorty, who is a vet, and that's just as a bit of a balance, bit of a reaction to that show that was broadcast last night. Not to say that I don't think anyone would condone such behaviour or not be aghast by it, but I think the conversation is just how reflective of things. All right, coming up after 11 o'clock, we're hoping to bring you the opening statements from Noel Kelly and Ryan Tubridy from, I think it's Committee Room 1. We'll stay with it for a quarter of an hour anyway, because their statements really, all the interesting information I think is going to be in there. So if you want to watch that, by the way, you can hop on to YouTube, Highland Radio Ireland, and you can watch it there as well. But on Radio Land, you're going to be listening to the audio across our Facebook pages and also by watching live. So if you want to stay with us, hear the opening statements. We've a lot to get through in the last hour as well, so we might have to cut away if they ramble too much. But in any case, it's just to give you a sense and a sample as to what defence is being offered, because it's, as I said earlier on, RTE are already, because they had sight of these statements, are already issuing statements rejecting the contents therein. Very interesting.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union, with monster loans available up to €60,000 for all occasions. Visit letterkennycu.ie.
Sometimes it's just bad luck, but sometimes it's negligence. From minor bumps to life-changing injury, every accident has a story. Time to call McElhenney and Associates. They'll assess the situation, advise on solutions, and lead the way if any litigation is to follow. From motor accidents and workplace accidents to slips, trips and falls, call today on 074 917 5989 or find us online. Let's get you started on the road to recovery. McElhenney and Associates Solicitors, Stranorlar. How can we help? In contentious business, a solicitor may not calculate fees or other charges as a percentage or proportion of any award or settlement.
Dirkfest Music Festival Castledirk proudly presents international DJ Darren Styles live on Saturday, July 29th at the Dirkfest Big Top Castledirk with special guests Andy Whitby, Ultrabeat and more. Tickets $27.50. See dirkfest.co.uk. Sponsored by McKelvey Construction Castledirk. Strictly over 18s.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook and at highlandradio.com.
Okay, it is 11 o'clock. Let's get a news update and welcome back into studio, Donna Marie Doherty.
Thanks, Greg. Good morning. Garda are investigating a burglary that occurred at a house in the area of Lochview, Buncrana in the early hours of Wednesday morning last. It's understood entry was gained via an unlocked patio door and the keys for a black Audi A4 in the drive were taken and the car subsequently stolen. Meanwhile, approximately 2 hours beforehand, the attempted theft of a car occurred in Ardcrana, Buncrana. Garda are investigating any hearings or sightings of a silver Volvo Jeep for both cases. RTE has already issued a statement in response to claims made by Ryan Tubridy and Noel Kelly. The state broadcaster rejects the claim that incorrect version of events was presented to the Public Accounts Committee. Both men are due to appear in the Oireachtas shortly around now. Investigations are ongoing regarding the theft of a car from Ardban Long Lane, Letterkenny, in the early hours of Thursday morning last. At around 4:30am, the door of the silver Mazda Demio, partial registration 10KE17, the door was forced open by two men. The stolen car was then located the following afternoon at Beechwood Grove, Lifford. Garda are appealing to anyone with information to make contact. A Letterkenny councillor has described the closure of Iceland shortly following the loss of Argos as disappointing for the town. Councillor Jerry McMonigal says he feels for the staff involved at both sites. He hopes the premises at Courtyard Shopping Centre won't be empty for too long. Over 1,000 Donegal suckler farmers have applied to join the new Suckler Carbon Efficiency Programme. Around 40% are yet to become members of Board B's Beef Sustainable Beef and Lamb Assurance Scheme. One of the conditions attached to the scheme is that farmers must have been audited and cleared by Board B by October 16th. And Finally, PSNI are warning motorists that Letterkenny Road in Derry is currently closed in both directions following a road traffic collision. Diversions are in place at the junction on Lone Moor Road. Drivers are advised to avoid the area if possible. Those are the latest headlines. Back again at 12. Good afternoon.
You just pretty much exhausted every word in F, under F in the...
I have farming on the brain, so I do.
I know, we all do. Listen, Donna Marie, thank you very much indeed. OK, the chair of the Public Accounts Committee is currently running through the rules as to what can and cannot be said. We're going to take a very short break, then we're going to go live and see what Misters Tubridy and Kelly have to stay. Stay right at where you are.
Hi, I'm Mary.
I'm Daniel.
Siobhan. Guess where I like to shop? Bet it's Aldi. I just like how much I can get for my money.
You can feed the family for great value at Aldi.
And I like the specially selected range.
Like Ireland's first ever Diamond Taste Award winner, specially selected dry-aged Black Angus ribeye steak.
It's quality.
So if you like great value and award-winning Irish steaks, it's got to be Aldi, Ireland's most reputable supermarket.
A caller says, I agree with Jared explaining it honestly as it is. I have full confidence in the quality and safety of Irish meat and milk. I know how strict the quality assurance procedures are carried out in this country. Another, were they not Irish cars in them marts and lorries? Another, please stop generalising. There are many on the left that support dairy farming. And Jared's just his view, and you've had an opportunity to rebut that. Is that a word? Rebut? Hi, Greg. In relation to people being scammed, well, not being scammed at garages, by the way, just have to be really careful with the language. It is just the way it operates, and most people, it doesn't impact them when they're fine with it. But this caller says they should return to cash. It just shows you people don't have control of the money if we go digital. Greg, can you please ask the Garda how common is drink spiking within the county? Having horror stories that a Dublin group coming into the county and spiking drinks in local bars. People whose drink is spiked instantly get uncomfortably hot and go outside for fresh air, and the group waiting there to take their bag wallets as they are disorientated. The caller says we say we're talking to young Fine Gael tomorrow on their anti-spiking bill. Funny when you lose your job in Meath, the government all over it, the TV, and in Letterkenny not a word from them. Give us more details as to what you're referring there. Okay.
Good morning to you all. And
here's Ryan
first, let me
Tubridy.
thank you for acceding to my request to come before you today. We felt it was really important to be here. I've always believed in the importance of public service. I was brought up that way, and I have great respect for the Oireachtas as an institution. I've come here, as you know, voluntarily, because I believe in the work that you as a committee are doing. I don't say that in any other way other than that I want to assist in every way I can. I appreciate that you'll have a lot of questions, so I'm going to try to keep my opening statement as short as possible. I begin by clearly and unambiguously at the very outset this morning state that I'm truly sorry for all of this and for any part which I have played. And be it consciously or unconsciously, and anything that has contributed to the debacle that we're dealing with today. I'd like to apologise to the committee that they've had to take this time to deal with this matter today, and to my colleagues in RTE, and to my listeners. So, given the events of the last 3 weeks, there is a lot that I wish to say, and there's a lot that I need to say. So please bear with me. My aim today is to help correct and clarify some very serious matters, and I'll be relying on my agent, Noel Kelly, here to go through the figures and provide greater detail. I'd like everybody here today to understand that the figures and statements presented by RTE over the last few weeks in relation to my remuneration have created a fog of confusion. A fog of confusion over what I was paid, and when I was paid, and what I knew, and when I knew it. Full transparency and disclosure on RTE's part, I'm sorry to say, would simply have avoided so much of this. And I'm here to do one thing and one thing only, ladies and gentlemen, and committee members, and that is to set the record straight and to call out some untruths. And it is my belief that there are 7 material untruths that I'd like to address. And the first is as follows. This claim that I did not take a pay cut from RTE in 2020. This is not true. I took a 20% pay cut from RTE in my 2020 to 2025 contract. Simple as that. I took a 20% pay cut from RTE. I'm obliged to do and present 205 radio shows and 38, as it was then, live 2-hour late shows under this contract. I am what's called an independent contractor. I get no pension or entitlements from RTE. That's the nature of it. Under the terms of my contract, I'm allowed to do additional work outside of RTE. That's also the nature of it. And I stress that there is nothing morally, ethically, or legally wrong with me or any independent contractor doing additional work for another client outside of RTE. But to be clear, I took a pay cut from RTE of 20% in 2020 for each of the 5 years of my contract at a cost of €525,000 to me over the length of that contract. It's an awful... I'll move on to my second untruth. The suggestion that my decision to retire from the Late Late Show was prompted by this whole debacle. This is not remotely true. I wasn't aware of any of this fiasco when I decided to retire from the Late Late Show. I made my initial decision to leave the Late Late Show pretty much a year ago. It was very personal. It was made in the heart and in the soul. Around this time, I mentioned it to those closest to me, my family and my agent and a few others, and they were surprised. They were very surprised. Why would you leave such a show? And I explained to them, and eventually brought them around to my way of thinking, that among other things, I had left a lot of me on the floor in the studio after COVID, and during COVID. I was burnt out, being honest with you, and I was exhausted. A lot of people in this country, as you know, were burnt out and exhausted after COVID, doing a lot more important jobs than I was doing, but I'm just telling you from where I'm coming from. So I turned it over in my mind over a few months, but by the time I got to January, there was no turning over in my mind. I knew it was time to go. I made the decision. And just to make it abundantly clear, there is zero connection between my departure and this very raw situation of recent weeks. I informed management on March 13th of this year. I first became aware of this Grant Thornton review in May, some 2 months later, and even then I had no inkling of the bombshell which was to come when RTE released their statement on June 22nd. The third untruth is that I was covertly or secretly overpaid by RTE. This is not true. I was not overpaid by RTE at any point. I fully accept I am very, very well paid. I understand that. But I was fully paid in accordance with my contract, which my agent negotiated openly and honestly and in good faith. There are no overpayments. Now, there are RTE's under declarations, which we challenged them on back in 2020. And there are indeed RTE's over declarations, of which they actually paid me in 2020 and 2021. This has caused justifiable anger among my colleagues. I understand that. And we're going to deal with all of that in the next few hours, and indeed the next 6 hours or more. We'll stay for as long as it takes. The upshot of RTE's inaccurate declarations is an impression that I've been less than honest. This is not the case. The fourth untruth is that I was aware that RTE were trying to conceal payments to me. This is not true. I was not aware that RTE were concealing payments to me. RTE acknowledged this in their statement of June 22nd, 2023, when they stated that Grant Thornton had made no findings against me. The fifth untruth, there was a secret agreement with Renault that I tried to conceal. This is not true. But not only that, it beggars belief. Think about it. I had a separate commercial agreement with Renault, the basis of which was that I would make public appearances. and perform road shows and things for them. And the work that I've done for Renault is all over social media. The suggestion that was a secret makes no sense. The sixth untruth, that RTE's underwriting of Renault's payment obligations was a secret. This is not true. RTE's underwriting of Renault's payment obligations was not a secret, as the documents we've prepared for you today show. And as my agent will explain in more detail, RTE committed in February 2020 to provide this guarantee in the early stages of contract negotiations around my 2020 to 25 contract. This is unequivocally confirmed in an email dated critical document, 20th of February 2020, from Breda O'Keefe to my agent. It was copied to other members of the Executive Board, the Director General, the RTE Solicitor's Office, everyone in RTE who needed to know knew. You'll find this on page 10 of the booklet of documents you have in front of you. Far from being secret, it was well known. And finally, the seventh untruth, that I did not ask RTE about their under-declarations of my earnings. When they released the 2017, 18 and 19 earnings, as they did all in one day, January 20th, 2021, this is a question I did not ask at the time. This is a question I should have asked. I fully accept that. But I will try and explain briefly and as clearly as humanly possible. At the end of the 2015 to 20 contract, my agent advised me that I was entitled to a phenomenally large figure payment of €120,000 that has been variously called a loyalty or an end of contract or an exit payment. I did not invoice for that payment. I did not pursue that payment, and I did not receive any payment. The documents provided to you bear this out. In my simple view, I had foregone that payment for €120,000, not taken it. But because of how RTE reported that decision in their accounts, Cahirlock, the narrative of the last 3 weeks has been that not only did I take this payment, but that I somehow contrived to hide it. So let me reiterate, I actually waived my entitlement to this payment and I didn't receive 1 cent of it. I hid nothing. I had nothing to hide. As the evidence provided to you today shows, my agent had already pointed out to RTE in 2020 that we thought the manner in which they were planning to account for my earnings in 2017, 18 and 19 was incorrect, and we had understood that they accepted our position, so that by the time they released the figures, I assumed that the Chief Financial Officer, the financial professionals in RTE, and the external auditors who had audited the accounts in these years, 17, 18, 19, had accountancy reasons for accounting for it the way they did. So I'd like to add that my company earnings fully reflect what I earned in these and all subsequent years. I'm particularly upset and disappointed about the decision and framing of the RTE statement of June 22nd, which inextricably linked my name to this whole fiasco. My name was mentioned 15 times in that statement. 15 times. And I was not consulted once. I did not have the Grant Thornton report, which RTE had, and which RTE acknowledged made no findings of wrongdoing on my part. I asked RTE to clarify that this was the case. They did. 4 days. 4 days after much of the damage was done. Pretty much all of the damage was done. I signed a contract in good faith. I declared my earnings. I paid every cent of tax. My employer has acknowledged that. It has engaged in deceptive practices to pay me, practices that were hidden from me. The result, I'm nearly finished, forgive me for overgoing. The result of this is that I've become the face of a national scandal. I've been accused of being complicit, deceitful and dishonest. I think the statement of June the 22nd was very unhelpful in this regard. The full truth was concealed. I take full responsibility. I can't say it enough. I take full responsibility for not asking more questions back on January the 20th, 2021, when the figures for that 2017, 18 and 19 were released. I take responsibility for that, I understand. But as has become abundantly clear and obvious in the last 3 weeks, this highlights the existence of 2 RTEs. 2. There are those who are involved in attempting to conceal payments and who were in a position to call me or call my agent and ask for our help in establishing the full facts. Instead, they chose to hurriedly issue a deeply damaging statement on June 22nd, which failed to include the full facts. I have nothing but respect and admiration for that great number of decent, hard-working people in RTE, my colleagues, my friends. And I'm very sorry for those whose lives have been made difficult with an incessant dripping of new revelations. I'm thinking particularly of my radio show colleagues and friends, that they've had to be put through all of this for reasons not of their own making. They work hard. They all work hard in RTE. And I want to thank those colleagues who have supported me through these last few weeks. And in closing, I'd like to thank the many people from across the country who've taken time to stop me on the street, decent Irish citizens, taking my shoulder and my elbow in their hands and saying, "You'll get through this." I have nearly a foot off the ground high of cards and letters from people who have written to Ryan Tubridy, Dublin. And I got them. Fair play to the post people in on Pust. And I thank the Irish people for that. I am hopeful that they will see from my statement and my appearance here today that I am determined to inform them of the truth and to demonstrate that I have nothing to hide. And I'm also hopeful that I will soon get back on air to do the job I love.
All right, that's Ryan Tubridy there addressing the Public Accounts Committee. Very, very strong words coming from him in opposition to not in opposition to, but certainly calling out RTE in their handling of the situation, that he wasn't consulted when perhaps he could, his agent wasn't consulted when perhaps he could, and that he wasn't complicit in any of this cover-up whatsoever. That is his position. And his agent, Noel Kelly, will listen to about 2 minutes of this and then we'll break away. We'll break away and get back to our regular programming. This is his agent, Noel Kelly.
I have huge respect for it, and we haven't spoken to anybody else, and we just wanted to get the opportunity to put our side across. I'll try and be as brief as I possibly can, but if you'll allow me. So, Herlock and deputies, thank you for the opportunity to meet with you today. I hope this meeting will help to clarify the confusion which has arisen over the past few weeks. At the outset, I want to say that we appreciate the seriousness of all of these issues. The controversy over the past few weeks has been damaging to RTE, but it's also been hugely damaging to Ryan Tubridy, to myself and to my own business. Earlier today, we circulated a pack which we believe are the key documents that will help understand this crisis. The document runs 39 pages and it includes relevant excerpts from Ryan's 2015 and 2020 contracts with RTE, extracts from the accounts of Ryan's company for the relevant years, various mails which track the back and forth of the negotiations for the 2020 RTE contract with Renault. We've made redactions where necessary, but we've been as transparent as possible to inform you with all the information at our disposal. I want to highlight a number of documents which will go to the heart of the issues. Let me start with Ryan's under-declaration of payments made to Ryan when there were published figures for 17, 18, 19 and in January 21. This issue has caused a lot of distress, and it's entirely a mess of RTE's own making. Ryan's contract from 2015, pages 1 to 4 of the pack, clearly states the fees he received in each of the following 5 years, and they're set out in clause 8.1 of the contract. It was 495, 495, 545, 545, 545 for the 5 years. He received those fees exactly, nothing more and nothing less. This is confirmed in the extracts from Ryan's filed accounts, company Tuttle Productions, which we also include in the pack.
All right, we will break away there because really what effectively Noel Kelly is doing is he's providing the evidence as to what Ryan Tubridy has already said. So there were 7 clear issues that Ryan Tubridy's taken with that whole process. But now what we have is his agent going through a 39-page document to support Mr. Tubridy in his claim. So we just wanted to bring you that. I think we'll keep you up to date, of course, on the news in context with the wider, more important stuff that's going on. But this is just really a key point in that whole story. All right, stay right where you are. Back with more after the break.
The county's #1 talk show, The 9 till Noon Show on Highland Radio.
The 9 till Noon Show with Letterkenny Credit Union. Simplify your debts with a debt consolidation loan from Letterkenny Credit Union. Call us on 074 910 2126 or apply online via our app or in office today.
Nutrice Intensive Lamb and Nutrice Lamb Crib Crunch lamb feeds are now on promotion at your local Homeland. Buy 10 bags, get one free, or get €15 off per tonne in bulk. Nutrice Intensive Lamb Feed contains intake booster for higher intakes, better thrive and faster finish. T's and C's apply. Contact your local Homeland or farm commercial specialist today. Visit nutrice.ie for full product details.
It's the summer of savings at SuperValue. Enjoy great offers like Velvet Classic Quilted Toilet Tissue 24 roll, only €10. Ariel Powder and Fairy Non-Bio Powder 50 wash, only €10. Selected Wolf Blass Eagle Hawk Wine, only €8. And money off vouchers every week on the app. For a summer of savings, it's got to be SuperValue. Enjoy alcohol responsibly.
Over recent months, we've all been dealing with the reality of rising energy costs. And we've all been making changes to reduce our energy use. However, if you are having trouble paying your energy bills, be sure to talk to your supplier as soon as possible. There are a range of protections in place for customers. Organisations such as MABS and Alone can also help. For information on these and all other supports available, visit gov.ie/reduce your use. Brought to you by the Government of Ireland.
Highland Radio time checks with Expressway. Travel Route 32 from Letterkenny to Dublin when you book online and travel for less. Expressway, bringing you the time at...
Okay, the time is 22 minutes past 11. I'm very pleased to welcome into studio, I think for the first time, though obviously John's been a guest on the show before, John McLaughlin, the Chief Executive of Donegal County Council. John, thanks so much for your time.
Good morning, Greg.
It's great to have you with us. Okay, right, so... I suppose we'll get straight into it then. What is the council's role? What role does it play in the implementation of the enhanced scheme that was recently announced, even maybe by way of comparison if it's changed to its role in the original scheme?
Yeah, Greg, thanks for the opportunity to come on as well. And it's a good place to start. Most people that are listening and connected here will understand the old scheme very, very well. And in that, we have two main roles. One is to administer on behalf of government the scheme as written by government, and we also made the technical assessment, which meant making a determination for people in terms of what was the appropriate or the right term was the minimal remedial option, and that translated to money and so on for individuals or for applicants. The big change now is that we're still responsible for the administration, the entire administration of it. However, the housing agency has entered and they will do all the technical assessment and the testing, and they will determine, I suppose, the fix and the amount of money people will get. And that's a significant change in our role, and it's intended to represent a streamlining of the process, a simplification, and intended to be better for homeowners in that they won't have much money to spend up front. I suppose time will tell, and there's a lot of public commentary, and I think then indeed the council have concerns as well, and well publicised. But I think we're at the point now it's been rolled out. The council will be making every effort to make it work where it can, and then seek changes on an ongoing basis, and we're still engaged with government in that.
How are you in terms of resources available to you to take on this, and especially as it most likely will expand because, and we'll talk about this in a moment, it's more affordable for people to sort of get their houses checked in the most simple terms. So in terms of the staff that you have available to you to do your end of it, are you well resourced, or do you need more, or what's the story?
Yeah, and I should have clarified, Greg, we have to finish off the 849 applications under the old scheme that have been approved. So we have to see those through entirely and then to go on the new ones. And the new scheme opened yesterday. Yesterday with one application as an example, but 23 people registered. So we'd expect a big flow from those that can work for. In terms of staffing, on our old scheme, we had generally about 6 or 7 people at the administration end and 6 or 7 with then temporary help on engineering. We have added now, by the end of July, we'll have 7 more people in the administration. And government said they'll support us in that. So a lot will depend on the flow of applications. As I said, our role is somewhat reduced, but nonetheless still important. We'll see over time the engineering role will step away from that, and that'll entirely be with the housing agency. We'll just do that to finish off those 850 applications.
And it's a lengthy piece of string, of course, but how long will it take, do you think, for you to work through those 845 applications?
Yeah, we're anticipating it'll be a number of months. We're going to do it on a prioritised basis. What I said, we will prioritise those who are at construction who need the money immediately to either pay off or finish construction. We'll work from that top down. And then in parallel, we're going to process the new applications under the new scheme with a separate pipeline of work. But there will be several months. We'd urge people, and I think, and we're getting hundreds and hundreds of calls already to read your questions answered document, so on. We will be in touch with each applicant, and the importance of how to transition those existing applications onto the new scheme, and we're looking to do that on that prioritised basis. We're having a look how can we deal with what people would often say the vulnerable applicants, how to identify those, and how to get the worst fixed first under the old scheme. That is a theme of the new scheme. We're talking to the department back and forth on that. We haven't quite figured out what's the best way to do that, but there's a real willingness to do that, and I would expect that to evolve over the next month or so.
Yeah, and how quickly are people moving through it? You know, because I mean, there's a lot of moving parts here, isn't there? I mean, there's the council's role, it's the access to maybe money of their own if they require it at this point, or access for people to do the work. You know, there's a lot of moving parts here, isn't there?
There is, and in terms of how the only one we know at the moment how people are quickly moving is the existing scheme. That's been very, very slow. At the moment, there's a total of 75 properties that are either fully fixed or underway, and a further 20 or so have got their stage 2 approval, so we'd expect those to advance fairly quickly. Those are probably people who are in a position to advance that. The new scheme brings new things and new limits and so on, so hopefully when people get their heads around all that, that'll allow many more to come in. And I do accept there'll be people who it doesn't work for, and there'll be a category that'll have to keep on pushing to see what can be done to make it work for them.
Yeah. But I mean, obviously all this building activities already on top of all building activities. I know this is not necessarily a concern for you, but you'd be across it. I mean, do we know how many houses realistically we can be repairing on an annual basis? Not a figure that I would hold you to, but just has that conversation come up between you and your team? As I say, it's much that's outside of your responsibility, but just as a curiosity.
No, and I suppose it is outside our responsibility in terms of the application process. But as a council, we're very interested in that. Not just in terms of the remedial measure, but even our own construction of houses and other buildings. And there is a huge need for extra construction workers in Donegal and the supply of materials. And indeed, it's very difficult to see how that will be speeded up. Yeah, and much that's outside of everyone's control, but there's a traffic jam coming just in terms of housing, purely based on the fact that activity versus materials and those available to carry out those activities. What I could see, if people have a line of sight, maybe the bigger builders and so on, of a guaranteed workload and a definite supply, I suppose, of payments and materials and people. Others may move into this market in Donegal and the other affected counties, but we have a €2 to €3 billion scheme. It's a massive opportunity in that sense for builders and suppliers, and I suppose the early days will be important to get this off and running on a path where it gives that line of sight to those involved, and perhaps people return. And I know there's talk about extra apprenticeships, which is good for Donegal, but that all takes time. Yeah, we need builders who are already established to move in and help with this. And I think the type of buildings may change as well. There's a lot of talk about modern methods of construction and homes built within factories and taken out. We may see some of that now emerge. Rather than maybe hoping at some point that the developers or contractors, or however you might describe them, sort of see the opportunities, do we need to be doing, be it through the Department of Housing or the council, proactively sort of almost marketing it and saying, you know, we need you here, these are the opportunities? But it's such a small market, you'd imagine if anyone's interested, they'd be aware of it. Well, yeah, no, and we have had those conversations directly with the department and made some suggestions. The difficulty we had in the last number of weeks, and that's when this really came to the closure, the focus on getting the scheme rolled out and what could be done, not done in the time available, and indeed the legislation was passed. But I do believe there will be a need there to, if the scheme works, and some people are saying it's not going to work for them, others are saying it will work. If it works successfully, I think that'll be the catalyst for those things to follow and the drive. And indeed, while we have many more houses than the other counties that are affected, we have to keep in mind we have a lot of houses to build ourselves, new houses on top of our stock. We have over 1,000 to fix from our existing stock. So the council have a massive workload on top of this as well. So it's going to be a very busy time for builders in the coming years. Yeah, and I want to come to your own stock in a moment.
Again, I know you come in to talk about how the councils work in the scheme, and some of the questions I'm asking is a bit of opinion, but we'll get back to. But like, say 23 houses yesterday, I think there's going to be thousands more as you know, people come up with the €600 or €700, whatever it might be, to get testing. Like, do we have a target or an idea of what we can deliver on an annual basis in real terms? So in other words, if someone were in a reasonably conditioned house were to test today, like, realistically, when might they even sort of see if they're approved and everything, work on their property?
Yeah, no, and that's a good point, and that's one we'd been pushing for. It was an overall program manager for to control the entire process, look at those. That has not been acceded to. And we had our own, and I can't talk about it all on air here, but our own suggestion in that regard, that somebody would control both the flow, the cash flow, the supply chain, and all the rest, so you could have realistic timelines and single out those that are worst to get fixed first, and set maybe a number of year timeline, and that would bring you that. But us as a council today, we can't give that answer.
And also too, we have to be aware now there's other parties involved in this. There's only a certain amount under the council's control, and the council itself would be making suggestions and recommendations that you and your team might believe might make this work better, but you can't necessarily implement them yourselves. You can kick them up the chain and see what they think, but your hands can be tied in certain areas to some extent too.
Yeah, and I'm saying that we wear the wider hat of being a local authority, not just administrators of the scheme. So we have a huge interest, both our members and the staff, on seeing Donegal houses fixed. And that's where we're coming at more than just the administration of the scheme in terms of following rules that are given to us. So we will continue to press for those, and I think the next number of months will be critical in terms of how this rolls out, and will people get on board and will it work for them? There's no doubt several people are waiting on this announcement, and when I say 23 registered, only one application came in, but we expect that to increase dramatically, and we would expect ourselves to be ready for that. Our role is simplified, and then it'll move to the housing agency, who, as we understand, have a number of consultants ready to go for.
So just in the interests of clarity, and I know you kind of outlined it at the beginning, but just to break it down into terms that I can understand, just so we know the role of the council going forward. Okay, so we'll park what's happening currently, and we'll just pretend we're starting from scratch now with this enhanced scheme. So just to be really clear, what will the council be involved in this process versus the housing authority?
Yeah. Step one for a housing applicant or an applicant to the scheme is to apply to us with a number of documents. Our role is simply to validate those documents, and then if it's complete, we pass that on to the housing agency. Then the housing agency do all the assessments and determine what is the appropriate solution and the grant. They then pass that back to us, which maybe people will be a bit surprised at. They send that to us. We send it to the homeowner, and then the homeowner knows. They then get an architect or a building professional, architect, engineer or surveyor to prepare remedial plans to match that option. Or they can go even higher, but the grant is fixed. Then they resubmit that to the council, and in theory that's where it ends, and we pay the bills.
But at this point, and I'm not trying to pick holes in it because this is not the platform of the conversation for this, at this point though, we don't really know if the science will tell us that you can't really do outer leaf, that it's going to be full demolition, or we don't know if foundations will not be included. What impact do you think that will have in terms of the application and process? I.e., do I hold off? And maybe it's an unfair question to ask you. Do I hold off to find out? Should I waste my time on an option that's an outer leaf and no foundations when maybe early next year it will be a full demolition and the foundations might be included? I'm not saying they will, but they might. Do I wait or do I get into the process now? Because, there's so much energy already going into this from people emotionally, they might not really know. Is that a question that you can answer?
No, but what I will answer in the context, I can't give a direct answer, but that depends on people's individual circumstances, how cracked is your house and so forth. But when I look at our own figures here for the 850 approvals that we have given out already, 527 of those have been full demolition.
Right.
So it's almost a 2-for-1 that are full demolition already on the old scheme. So if that's a snapshot, you could say, well, a lot are in that space for demolition in terms of the ratio. So all of those people would have been absolutely certain that the right thing to do was apply. There is that issue of foundations that's not answered yet. But what I suggest, and it's only a personal suggestion, if you're replacing the entire house, it makes a lot of sense to replace the foundation, even though people find it hard to find the money for that. But almost impossible to replace the foundation later on a new house that's built.
Yeah.
So it's, and I don't understand, there's a lot of debate on that, and that'll come, but it's quite slow.
Yeah.
But I think the sensible thing would be, well, cut back on someone else that may be easier to replace if you can't afford it, and do the foundations until that's answered. And then, so it's I think it's really back to people's individual circumstances. There's nothing wrong, I think, with applying. If you're in a position to apply and you know you understand the facts, the housing age is committed to the fixing the worst first, so that would imply, more than likely imply, the worst. It will be fixed obviously first, and quite possibly a lot of those would be demolitions.
So if I contact the council, is it your team that will get my house tested?
No.
Okay, and I'm sorry, I'm asking the same question for the
you're
third
okay, Greg.
time.
Yeah.
So I'm just kind of trying to give people a realistic expectation that if they apply today, when they might get a visual inspection or a test on their property, we don't really know that at this point, do we?
No, we don't, and there's no point in me guessing that. That'll be a matter for the housing agency, and it'll take, in fairness, probably a number of cases to run through the process to get that solidified. The steps are, you apply to us, all documents complete, and I would stress, very important in this new scheme to have all the documents complete. What we're being told is our job is to assess, are they complete or not? If they're not complete, as I understand it, we're supposed to refuse it. And
not send it back as such, refuse it.
You refuse it, and then there's an appeal process. So it's all built around supply the documents first time in, and then they move across to housing agency, providing it's validated. We're looking to see if there's a way of actually giving some scope for that for people who might be missing something. But it's designed to speed it all up.
Is it a complex set of documents that have to be furnished in the first instance, or is it a case of just making sure you cross everything before you do provide them to the council?
Yeah. Well, it's if everything's in order, then you would say it's straightforward.
Yes. Okay.
But for example, let's say your house is on a site perhaps that's gifted by a parent or someone. It's not in your own name. Those things then make it complicated. So for those people, it seems very complicated, but they might be able to demonstrate ownership. So it'll depend on the circumstances.
Is that ownership of the land?
Sorry? Yes. You have to be the owner.
So you could have the house and it could be mortgaged in your name, but the land could be part of a family farm or something.
Yeah, you have to be able to show you're the owner. So that those things make it complicated in some cases.
Yeah.
And there's other things as well. So it's,
does that involve a change of ownership or a declaration on behalf of a number of parties, or how's that square circle?
I actually don't know the exact there. I know it's been flagged as an issue a number of times, even in the old scheme.
Yes, okay.
But ideally, you'd have it registered in your name.
Is there any other potential pitfalls that people could look out for? Putting you on the spot here off the top of your head.
Yeah. I think I'm not going to just guess those. The people who deal with it,
okay.
rather than mislead people. But I think it's if you go through the exact checklist and get help if you need to.
That question is answered. Can you prove you own the land or something? Okay, right.
Yeah.
And I think you emphasised that right at the very beginning. And I think really it's to make sure that people aren't refused and then having to enter an appeals process, is to just go through the Q's and A's, check all the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted before you submit your application.
Yeah, another point I might just mention, Greg, on the old scheme, and there'll be a lot of talk about the FIE request, further information, or sometimes incomplete information. Most of that surrounded the engineering assessments, and now that'll be actually gone over to the housing agency where they do the entire package, so that should remove that set of FIEs.
And we'll come back to that, the scheme, just because we'd be contacted by, I would know people personally that are living in council-owned property. And maybe someone called out to the house a year ago. This is what was related to me personally recently. And they've heard nothing since. They don't know. They've got no heart in the house, no love for the house. They don't know what's going to happen. They don't know if they're going to get accommodation nearby or how all that works. Where are you at in terms of... is it 1,000 of your housing stock at this point that we know to be affected?
Yeah.
So what's the plan or process?
Yeah, there's different numbers mentioned between 1,000 and 1,500 based on visual inspections by our own team, and we would have gone around them and looked at them. At the moment, we have no authorisation to fix those houses in the department, and we might as well say it here. We were told we wouldn't get that until the other scheme was running, and that's I suppose that's a strategy But we'd expect that to come to us shortly. We've applied a number of times and made suggestions as much as 2 years ago. We thought originally we'd become the perhaps fix some housing and be able to set some examples in terms of how to do those. But we're, I suppose, in some sense held back. But we expect that to get freed up now soon. So it would mean for our tenants, and they're putting up with that. But there could be hope now coming down the road to them. We would have visually inspected them all. We've moved out some people where we determined we needed to do that. And we face this exact same situation.
It's a terrible situation for us all in the county, because you're looking at the same property that someone in a privately owned property might look at. You're maybe looking to get a contractor on site that maybe the private property might be. But there's not an awful lot can be done about that. This is just everything coming all at once to some extent.
Yeah, no, and that's why I would say it really needs the programme manager to control all that, and to actually, so the council wouldn't be fixed. Just put an example, excuse me, fixing, let's say, hundreds of houses that could be delayed for a few years as an example to allow others in. So that really ought to be looked at in terms of how that would be programmed.
Yeah. That would require a team too, not a single person, I'd imagine, because that's a complex piece of work.
Oh yeah,
a programme management team.
That would require an entire team with the proper, I suppose, motivation as well.
Hello, hope's all well. Can you highlight this to John, please? Where would a homeowner get this piece of documentation? And it's a question here. It is a question for subsection D. Details of quality control of construction products and materials used. Now, I'm not sure if you're fully across that whole document or whatever, but people will be struggling. Where would I get that information?
Yeah, I'm not sure in that detail. I think the best thing, they should contact the unit in the council that's dealing with it.
Yeah, of course. And as I say, I think we have to understand that we can't. This is not a Q&A about the intricacies of it, but certainly call the team and get that checked before you subject it. Can the CEO shed any light on speculation that land bought by DCC for $4 million for housing is to be allowed out for grazing animals? That's completely separate. I don't know. Do you know anything about that?
Oh, I've seen that in one of the local social media yesterday.
No, I didn't. I thought that was to be housing related. Sorry.
2 points. I'd say we didn't pay $4 million for it. That's the first error. That's significantly below that. And it's a temporary letting. We have to go through planning and so on before.
I did not know that was about that. Okay, but so no harm to get an answer. Right, so in terms of then understanding, and I'm probably sounding really quite sympathetic, but I think you have to be to all parties here in that your staff are working through this as well. You know, they're discovering and learning how it works. So in the early stages, there's going to be teething problems, presumably, as people get across all the knowledge and what have you, John.
Well, there is, and we have already submitted some clarification questions, and we only opened yesterday about the transition arrangement and how to calculate certain things. It was important we start off on the right footing here, because there'll be thousands of houses following. So the templates that we follow, for example, on the payment of grants and somebody complete, is the amount you spent, or is the ceiling? If they and we believe we know that, so we need that clarified, but that applies to everyone. The calculation of floor area, for example. What have you an upstairs attic? What do we use it for storing your Christmas decorations? What qualifies as floor area? All those have to be, I suppose, well defined so people follow them and understand what to get.
Okay. I'm surprised some of that stuff is putting you in a position to some extent. I'm not trying to pitch you against the other guys, but I mean, you would have hoped that kind of stuff would have been clarified at this point. But I suppose that's working through the first few applicants and stumbling across. It's like stumbling across these issues.
Yeah, and in fairness, there's been discussions on that, but the practical workings, when you work on specific examples, some things turn up that can affect hundreds of more people.
Yeah.
So as a part of the first one done right.
Yeah, exactly. Cola says just they're concerned that if they replace the foundations, that you're classed then as a new build and you'd have to build to current building regulations as it's a new build, and then maybe you couldn't apply for the SEA Energy Upgrade Grant. So who answers questions like that, John? Do you know if someone wants to be just sure that they're not... can your team, do you think, be across things like that, or...?
I think that one is a good enough question. I think an SEI is separate from us, even though we've been talking to them, and they've said they would interject their grant at the appropriate time, so homeowner would know the max amount, the DCB grant, plus the SEI before they start designing their house. They know that. In terms of, I pick up the nuance there in terms of the scheme. I think there will be the department will have to provide the clarification there.
Okay, another good question. So say someone has already had testing. This people are on stage 2, okay? They owe the engineers $4,000. Now, if they were applying now, the engineers' fees would be much less. They still owe the engineers that money, don't they? I mean, that's a private arrangement, presumably between the homeowner and whomever did their testing.
Yeah, although they'll recover those through the scheme. Anybody's at stage 2, they're on the old scheme.
Right.
So they'll remain with us to the end, with the county council. So they get to talk to our team, see if what's the earliest they can get that refunded. Mm-hmm. But we're refunding fees all the time.
Yeah, okay. Anything else that I'm not touching on that you think's worthwhile mentioning, John? Because I don't want you to walk out here and I haven't asked a pertinent question because it's such an important issue.
No, look, at what I would say is, this has been with us for many years. And I think the way it's evolved over the last number of years, it's been very difficult in the county council, I'd say, and for all our citizens. And sometimes it pits one against the other, which doesn't get the best outcome collectively, even though people are people and that's the way it works. And I think what I'd like to hope this can be perhaps at some level a fresh beginning where we work together for the good of the county and collectively work on those things you talk about, the supply chain, the builders. What's the most sensible if you're in charge of everything? What would you do? And I think that's the space we'd like to get in. I think we've had a late involvement directly with the department, but it was quite positive in the last 4 weeks, and that held up the scheme getting signed.
Yeah.
We haven't given up on that, and they're willing to continue that. So and they've set up some new processes for us. We'll continue to play our part in that, and we are strong across staff and elected members together. When we go now together, it's a slightly different type of voice when you have the elected members and staff meeting the department. And to be honest, maybe they're not always used to that. And I think we'll get the better outcome. But we want the best for the county overall here and for the individual homeowners.
There's a lot of people working in the council offices that are going home to houses that are affected themselves as well.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And I would say this appeal to all applicants, and I fully get it in terms of individual homeowners and the frustration and the fear they have and the distress. But our staff too have the same, and we've lost people in this scheme, several people who actually can't deal with those calls, and they left in tears many times. And we just appeal that people are doing their job as well, and many of which have defective blocks themselves all over the place, including our elected members. We're in together, and it's incumbent us all to try and, I suppose, take a breath and get through it.
A quickie here, in terms of the initial assessment by an engineer, who pays for that in the first instance, and when is that recouped from the council or?
Yeah, then it's much smaller. It's a building condition assessment.
Yeah. It's
really a visual type assessment to apply. I don't know when it's offhand, but the team will know when that gets recouped.
Specifics.
It probably gets recouped but it has to stand to verification when they're admitted to the scheme.
Okay. And talking of the team, how do you engage or contact the team involved in this?
Yeah, well, there's special emails, and I don't have it here at hand now, but
we'll
put up on your site. Yeah. So they can call or the emails. And what I would urge people, if they frequently ask question or your question, if that can answer some of them, it takes the burden off our people who are trying to process other people's applications.
Yeah. I mean, I think really what we're talking about here, there's a couple of classes of questions. There's questions that are covered in the Q&A, and then there are more intricate questions, and we got to a couple of those that will require further assistance or investigation.
Yeah, and what we will do when we get some of those that might be considered standardised answers, we'll publish those so everyone can see them.
Yeah, okay, brilliant stuff. All right, John McLaughlin, Chief Executive of Donegal County Council, thanks for coming in. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Greg.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union. Digital loans now available. Apply online or via our app today and get your loan transferred directly to your current account.
Did you have a nice time, love?
We went for a picnic. Neve pinched my sunglasses, the ones you got me. Freya and Connor had a massive fight. I dived for the frisbee, grazed my knee. Nice one, making me take plasters, Mum. Neve's hay fever flared up, had to buy antihistamines. It started lashing down, but hello, waterproof mascara. And I'm convinced there's Sultan in my hair. Please tell me you got dry shampoo. Best day ever.
Incredible offers all summer long. With you for our perfectly imperfect summer. Boots, with you for life.
2 gig full fibre broadband from Virgin Media has landed in Donegal. Hear that, Aoife? Huh? Time to lose yourself in the latest Scandi crime series.
I have no idea what's going on here.
You should really put on the subtitles.
Fair point.
Whatever your genre, whatever way you play, Virgin Media is here. Switch today at virginmedia.ie. Virgin Media, it's playtime.
Subject to location and availability.
Homeowners, it's time to unlock incredible savings on your energy bills. Efficient Renewables is here to reduce your energy consumption. Say goodbye to skyrocketing costs and hello to renewable energy solutions. With no VAT on solar panels and the generous grants for both solar panels and heat pumps, see these innovative systems in action in our state-of-the-art showroom in Newton Cunningham today. Contact Efficient Renewables on 074 97 08320.
The 9 till noon show with Letterkenny Credit Union, now offering mortgages from 40,000 to 600,000 euro with no hidden fees or transaction charges. Letterkenny Credit Union, 9102127.
At Lidl, we've done our homework on lowering those back-to-school prices, like savings that fit the bill with our 100% cotton uniform bundle with t-shirt, jumper and trousers or skirt for ages 4 to 12, just €6. Fill their pencil case in one place with 3 for 2 on big stationery. Go on, shop without compromise and pay less. Go full Lidl today.
Donegal County Council invite the public to participate in the second public consultation for Letterkenny Southern Network Project at the Radisson Blu Letterkenny on Wednesday 12th of July from 12 noon till 8 p.m. The project aims to develop the transport network south of Letterkenny town. See project website lsnp.ie for more details.
Beggs & Partners are a specialist local plumbing, heating and bathroom supplier. Established in Belfast 1960, we now have 12 branches and are known for quality, value and reliability. Our latest branch in Springtown Drive, Buncrana Road, Derry includes a beautiful bathroom showroom as well as a fully stocked plumbing and heating trade sales counter. Delivery service available. See beggsandpartners.com.
Are you worried about trees on your property? Northwest Forestry Services Ballybuffet are fully insured and have over 40 years experience in dangerous tree removal, tree felling, surgery and stump grinding. For peace of mind, call Northwest Forest Services Ballybuffet for a no obligation quotation on 913233.
All right, the ongoing hearings at the Public Accounts Committee has been put to Ryan Tubridy at the moment by one of the members that... he stated really during COVID that we're all in it together, but when it came down to his payments, they weren't all in it together.
Before appearing today, either internal or external.
We did assemble a team of people to talk with and to get the best advice. I was always told that by relative of mine, so always surround yourself with people smarter than you. So yeah, of course, I spoke to people.
Yeah, were people in pay in order to offer crisis comms advice, either internal or external?
I presume they weren't doing it for free, of course.
Okay, I'm going to take that as a yes. I hope the answer to this is no, but were you advised by those people to delay the documentation until half
No,
eight this morning?
no. The documentation, and I am, my apologies for that. I think
It's a very comprehensive set of documentation.
Yeah,
It sheds a lot of light.
Do you want me to come back on that?
Things, but it was to receive it at 8:30.
Yeah.
And I think particularly of the staff who support this committee who stayed up until very late last night.
My apologies
Got
to
up
them,
very
yeah.
early this morning.
Do you want me to come back on that, or would you rather
Briefly,
keep going? Okay, I'll try. The last 3 weeks have been chaotic. They have been destructive. They have been beyond difficult. And all I'll say to you is that we wanted to get things right today because so many people have been getting things wrong.
Okay, I fully accept. I don't want to interrupt, but I have one night
we were working on this till burning the midnight oil. So, yeah.
I just want to examine one thing that's in your opening statement this morning. You state clearly that you took a 20% pay cut. Is that inclusive or exclusive of the €75,000 that you were receiving either from Renault or through RTE through a barter account? When you say you took a 20% pay cut, is that inclusive or exclusive of the 75,000?
No, I'll take that. If I can answer that, thank you. The 20% was Ryan's contract was 495, 495, 545, 545, 545. That was
this 20% refers to the payment direct from RTE.
I'll explain the percentage. So that was from 15 to 19, and in Ryan's then next contract, his salary was 440,000 per annum, which was 200,000 for radio, 240,000 for TV. That was 105,000 reduction per year by 5, so that was 525,000. It didn't include the 120,000 that he didn't take, and the Renault 75,000 was a completely separate contract. So this was on his TV and radio earnings.
So it's exclusive of the Renault contract or the payment through Rorty by Barrister
Yes,
County.
yeah.
Now, I just have to contest that we regard this as separate. Now, the email over and back that we see in the contract.
Yes, and so it goes into sort of the areas of semantics there. But as I say, we'll keep you updated on how that progresses over the course of the day. Right. Garda on Highland Radio on Tuesday. There's a phone call scam. Scammers are using numbers like my own and able to phone other people, and my number shows up, and the people who receive my call returns the call saying, I'm returning your call. I've reported to my mobile provider. Thank you. And indeed, you see, that is very easy for the scammers to do now, because they clone numbers. They can clone the local Garda number, they can clone the council number, they can clone your bank number, they can clone your mother's number. That's what they can do now. And I have said for the longest time on this programme and off it that we need more from the mobile phone providers, I think, to sort of flag and highlight in advance some of this stuff. Greg, you are correct in saying that automatic renewal applies in all cases where direct debit is involved. If no action is taken by the insured, the deductions just continues. This is not the case where you pay for your insurance in full at time of renewal. Your card payment details are not normally retained on file. I had paid in full. I would normally get a phone call or email reminder before renewal date, so I should have got the option to shop around before my money was taken. I'm concerned about the legality of this manner in doing business. Thank you so much for getting back in touch with us and providing a little bit more information. It's very, very useful. Thanks. A caller says, I was at a local filling station over the weekend. I'm owed €90 now. I'm on the state pension. I can't go shopping for a few days. It's an unreal system. So they got the $125 deducted from their card. They're still waiting for it to go, the balance to be put back in so that they can go and do their shopping. Greg, this is why we need to keep cash. Indeed, but in some of these service stations, you can't use cash. It's all card. This is turning out to be the Ryan Tubridy show, a farce in front of cameras. Lies and more lies. Could try full stop giving RTE ratings. Nothing will be done. All right, okay. This could also have gone away for Tubridy, says this listener, by coming straight out and paying the €345 and future €75,000 instead. He came out with an initial dismissal statement back to staff in more need. Now he shall have to leave. Remember, some of the bubble had previously been, at the time of the bubble, on $900k a year with no competition, talking to the committee like it's his audience. Galling, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, I think really today is going to be down to whether you like Mr. Tubridy or not. And I think people, I'm not sure views will be changed in that regard. But anyway. Okay, listen, thank you everyone for listening to the show today. We really appreciate it. Thanks for texting in and calling in and supporting us in what we do here. It's really, really appreciated. And thanks to those of you who watch